The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome into a Wednesday edition of Running Points on ysnlive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hartwig. For the next 3 hours, we'll be chatting about all kinds of things related to sports, and we begin with the Big Ten finally caving into the pressure around them. And ladies and gentlemen, the Big Ten is back. They will start play on October the 24th. 8 weeks, 8 continuous weeks, no byes. The conference championship game will be played on December the 19th. December the 20th, the committee gets together and picks their final four. Yes, the Big Ten will have, well, if they're worthy, they'll have a team in the Final Four. So they are Final Four capable. And the season for the Big Ten is going to start on October 23rd and October 24th. By the way, October 23rd is a Friday. That's when the Big Ten will start 8 consecutive weeks with no byes, and then a conference championship game on December the 19th. So somewhat normal again, but man, did they have all kinds of pressure to get back into the fray.
Yeah, and with that, they're expected to make that announcement later today. They haven't officially announced from the Big Ten that that's going to happen, but all signs, of course, pointing to it going to be happening. And how about Milwaukee being the first to kind of break that story, that journal up there in Wisconsin? I think they were the first to break the fact that the Big Ten was going to cancel the season, too. So they're on top of things.
Yeah, the Milwaukee Sentinel-Journal is one of the good papers in America. There's no two ways about that. It's a really good read.
So, but, you know, I'm torn because I'm really happy that Big Ten football is going to be back. I think it's better for college football if Big Ten's there. Programs like Ohio State, Michigan, it's better for college football if they're playing. But at the same time, the leadership of the Big Ten, I have even less respect for them than I did before, because they made a bad decision to cancel football, but at least it looked like they were sticking to their guns and they were going to, stick with whatever they were going to, stand their ground a little bit.
Yeah.
And now they're just jelly to me. I've lost all respect for them now.
Yeah, it's at least they didn't half-ass this decision. I mean, it's okay. Now everyone is in. Now, I'll guarantee you there are some teams and there are some team presidents that aren't exactly on board with this. But again, they were all pressured to vote yes on this. I find it hard to believe that Maryland, Michigan, and Michigan State are all excited about playing football this year. I find that one hard to believe.
And I feel bad for all the other fall athletes that still have to have their season canceled.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that bothers me.
They're sitting there like, what the heck? We do the exact same thing football players do. We go to class, we go to practice, we lift, we condition, we put all the time in the football players do, but we don't bring in the revenue, so we don't matter as much.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to life, and welcome to Business 101.
Right.
You don't matter because you don't bring in revenue.
Exactly.
And it stinks. It really does stink. I mean, look, if you're going to sit back and say that the Big Ten has to play football, then open everything up for the entire fall sports. I think that was a very poor decision by the Big Ten, not opening everything up.
And look, the ACC isn't playing a normal volleyball schedule, but they're still playing volleyball. So they're still letting those athletes have somewhat of a competitive season. But they can't have a normal season because the NCAA came out and said they can't have a fall championship because of the fact that less than 50% teams are playing.
Yeah.
But at least the other conferences are letting their fall sport athletes compete in something.
Yeah, and you can win a conference championship, which is a big deal. So I'm a little disappointed in the Big Ten that they didn't put all fall sports up.
Big Ten volleyball is where it's at. I mean, you got
It's good
Nebraska,
stuff.
Penn State.
Absolutely.
Those are two of the most treasured programs in college volleyball. Nebraska probably brings in more money for their volleyball team than they do their football team because it's consistently sold out in that gym for volleyball.
Well, I mean, look, 20,000 against 60,000, it's no big deal. Come on.
I don't know if they get 60,000 a game. Nebraska gets. They're still proud of their football. But
Yeah,
their football team's
Nebraska gets a ton of people.
They're not playing well.
Yeah, they get a ton of people in their stadium. Don't kid yourself.
As far as volleyball teams go, that's probably one of the most lucrative volleyball programs in the country in Nebraska. Penn State, too.
Oh, no question. Two of the better volleyball programs in college sports. So, there's no two ways about that.
Definitely sad we're not going to be seeing them take the court.
Yeah, and I'm like I said, I'm disappointed. Okay, if you're gonna go football, then you got to go all fall sports. Even though, again, all fall sports except for football have been canceled in terms of winning a national championship, but you can still win a conference championship. I'm not too happy with that part of the decision, but the idea that you're going to have the Big Ten playing college football. Now college football feels a little bit more normal, even though the Big Ten, in comparison to the Southeastern Conference, there is no comparison, but it still feels normal now that we're going to get Midwestern college football.
And hey, you know what? You're going to have one of the best, probably one of the most well-rounded teams in the country playing.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Ohio State's probably, talent-wise, on paper, the best team in the country this year.
Now, they're going to be without one of their starting offensive linemen and their lockdown corner because they both were tired of waiting and they hired agents. So they're pretty much out. But, again, Ohio State's going to be there. I'll be stunned if they're not one of the four teams going into the college football playoffs.
But now, if they lose one of those Big Ten games,
they're done.
They're done because they have no non-conference wins to back them up.
Yeah.
So if they stub their toe against Purdue or Iowa or whatever,
sure,
it's done. It's done.
Well, and the other thing is, and again, this goes to the strength of that conference. It's Ohio State and a bunch of mediocrity.
Right.
So if you lose a game, I'm sorry, your conference isn't strong enough for that one loss for any team to go to the Final Four.
It's Ohio State, a couple teams that can probably get into the top 20. Wisconsin's usually always
Wisconsin
in the top 20.
and Penn State.
Penn State usually always in the top 20.
Michigan is questionable.
Mediocrity.
Yeah.
Because Michigan maybe top 25 sometimes, but usually by the end of the season they're unranked. So
one of the other stories that has broke this morning, and it's coming out of Major League Baseball, we made mention yesterday about the playoffs are going to be after the wild card round, which is 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. After the wild card round, the postseason will be in neutral fields. San Diego and Los Angeles will be hosting the ALDS. San Diego will be hosting the ALCS. Houston and Arlington will be hosting the NLDS. Arlington will be hosting the NLCS. Arlington will be hosting the World Series. Well, news broke today that the owners love the 8-team playoff format so much that they've decided to keep it around. So starting in 2021, where, knock on wood, we have a 162-game season, the top 8 teams in the playoffs, or the top 8 teams in each league, will go into the playoffs. I am not a fan of this.
But have they said if they're going to keep the same format, too?
Well, it would be the same format, 1 versus 8, best of 3, all 3, 2 minimum, 3 maximum.
So it's like it's a waste of time because that 8, God, most of the time that 8 seed's not going to stand a chance against a 1 seed.
But
baseball is fickle, so you might get that 8 seed to knock off a 1 seed, and then
I agree with that.
Do they deserve it? I mean,
yeah, I agree with that. But here's where I think this could be interesting. The Indians right now are the 8 seed. Now they suck. And they're on a 7-game losing streak. And by the way, the last 3 games of that 7-game losing streak, the offense has scored more than 4 runs, and they've lost all 3 of their games.
That's still a scary 8 seed, though, because they don't suck on paper.
No.
If they wake up as an 8 seed.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
Well, and here's the thing. If you have Bieber pitching game 1, and you have Carrasco pitching game 2, and you have to go into a game 3, and you're pitching. You can go Savali, you can go Plesac, you can go McKenzie. Cleveland, I wouldn't want to play with them if they're the 8 seed. I would be petrified to play this team. They're a 7-game losing streak, and they've looked awful in those 7 games. And by the way they lost last night's game, bases loaded, they hit the guy on a first pitch.
Hit 2 guys in a row.
Yeah, it hit 2 guys in a row, which was just inexcusable. Still not the weirdest ending I've ever seen personally. But again, it's just a terrible way to lose a game. But if this team gets into the playoffs and they play a little bit better than what they're currently playing right now, I wouldn't want to play them in the first round. Not with that pitching staff. Because if you got Bieber in game 1, chances are you're down 1-0, and now you got to win the next 2 games to survive. And you got to go up against Carrasco, and in the rubber game, either Savali, Plesac, or McKenzie. Good luck with that.
You're right. I mean, we said it. You're right. I mean, that's a scary 8 seed, and I think the Indians, if they make the playoffs, they might look back at that 7-game losing streak or however long it ends up going and being like, that might be the best thing that ever happened to us, because maybe they need a wake-up call. They need something to be like, oh, okay. And if they wake up, everyone better watch out, because I think everyone knows they're one of the more prepared teams in the playoffs.
Hopefully they wake up, because it feels like someone has put a mafia hit on them, and they've put them with cement shoes, thrown them overboard, and here are the Indians sinking into the abyss. Someone needs to cut the rope.
It's a message.
And stop looking at the Indians like Luca Brasi.
Whitgrid sleeps with the fishes.
Yeah, the Indians sleep with the fishes. Yeah, it's like Luca Brasi. They're gonna sleep with the fishes here. It just hopefully they wake up. Coming up at about 12:20, we will hear from our Notre Dame guru, Brian Driscoll. We'll talk about Notre Dame's victory over Duke. We preview week number 2 for Notre Dame as they take on USF. It's kind of a welcome home party, if you will, as a name of the past will be coming in. Now, he's not the name, but Charlie Weiss's son, Charlie Weiss Jr., is the offensive coordinator for the University of South Florida. The Bulls come to South Bend, and Charlie Weiss Jr., who spent much of his youth in South Bend, as his dad was roaming the sidelines as head football coach at Notre Dame, and Charlie Weiss Jr. cut his teeth with the Notre Dame program, and he has turned himself into one of the better offensive coordinators in all of college football. He brings the Bulls up to South Bend. This should be an entertaining game.
Yeah, and USF is always a team that fights and competes. I mean, they're not a team that's usually great, but they're one of those hard-nosed, blue-collar teams that's always going to be giving you their best shot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see Charlie Weiss Jr. Roaming the sidelines in South Bend, as he was roaming the sidelines helping his father out when Charlie Weiss was the head football coach at Notre Dame. So we'll talk with Brian Driscoll about that. Obviously, Brian is based out of South Bend, Indiana, the middle of the Midwest, and he has an opinion about the Big Ten coming back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because he's not involved in the Big Ten, but he's in Big Ten kind of country. So I think it'll be a very middle of the line take from Brian Driscoll about what's going on in the Big Ten, because I think a lot of the Big Ten fans here are just blinded by the sheer joy that Ohio State's playing football.
And they should.
And they should. I mean, college football should be happy the Big Ten is playing football. It's
Absolutely.
just all the other stuff that goes along with it that is kind of sad.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll catch up with Brian Driscoll, who writes for the SI website for Notre Dame, and you can definitely check out his work, IrishBreakdown.com. He'll be our guest at 12:15. We'll hear from Brian Tolnar. There happens to be a major coming up this week, the U.S. Open. Go figure. It's mid-September, and we have a golf major. That's not supposed to happen, but we live in the COVID world, so no need to explain. So
at least it's happening.
Exactly, and that's not going to be the last major. We have one more after this one. So Brian Tolnar will break down the U.S. Open. Should be an interesting weekend of golf. John Vargo from the Vindicator and the Tribune Chronicle will jump on board at 2 o'clock. The deadline for the schools that are intending on not going into the playoffs is tomorrow. And so far, Sebring and Matthews have opted out of the postseason. They'll play each other in week number 7. Now, we spoke with Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle sports editor Doug Chapin, and he believes that number is going to be close to 11 teams before it's all said and done. I'll be curious.
We'll talk about it.
Look, there's some teams that it makes sense for them to opt out of the playoffs. But again, if you're going to opt out, at least have a voice heard from the senior class. I think that's probably the best thing to do.
And hopefully Matthews and Sebring did at least that. I mean, we'll never that conversation stays in the locker room, and it should. So we never know what that conversation really is between coaching staff and the team. But hopefully they kind of presented that to their seniors, and their seniors were the leaders of that decision. But like I said, we'll talk about that more in depth later, because there's stuff to unpack, and there's a lot of meat to that discussion.
Yeah, and like I said, there could be as many as 11 teams from this area that opt out. And truth be told, when the state of Ohio, the OHSAA, figures out, okay, which teams are going to be hanging around, then they're going to go with, okay, how many teams do we have in Division 7? Let's divide it by 4. We may not have the same region for every team that we're accustomed to. The OHSAA might actually redistrict and re-regional these teams, where you might have some new teams in the region just to make things even. So this can be interesting, to say the least. We'll definitely talk about that. Brian Driscoll, though, is coming up next. Notre Dame taking on the University of South Florida. USF comes up to South Bend this weekend. We'll catch up with Brian Driscoll, talk about that. Unpack the Notre Dame-Duke game, which was sloppy in a lot of ways, and we'll get his take on the Big Ten coming back into the fray in college football. That's all coming up after this timeout. It's a Wednesday edition of Running Points on ysnlive.com.
21 News.
Let's get right to our top story tonight.
More experienced reporters.
A new Wilmington restaurant.
GM Lordstown.
Telling more local stories.
We'll look at efforts
Boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
Around our
Good
valley.
afternoon. We are here in Youngstown, right up.
Because you expect
It's important for everyone.
No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County Court.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Attention football fans, order Coca's Pizza tailgate package for only $54.99. You'll receive 24 slices of our delicious cheese pizza, 20 jumbo wings, and 2 of our famous foot-long pepperoni rolls. Coca's Pizza, we serve it hot.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions. WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Your Armstrong services are more important than ever. There are more and more connected devices in the home these days. To get the most out of your experience, you need a network that is always getting better. You deserve superior performance, and that's what Armstrong offers every day. Whether you're working from home, enjoying your favorite content together, or simply catching up while apart, count on Armstrong to keep you connected to what matters most.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hartwig. And joining me, and joining us, I should say, as he always does around this time on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. He is the guru at the University of Notre Dame, our go-to guy when it comes to Notre Dame. You can read his work at irishbreakdown.com. He is Brian Driscoll, and he joins us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Brian, what's going on, brother?
Just getting ready for South Florida, man. Just wrapping up everything that's going on with the Duke game, getting ready for South Florida, and then, of course, the Big Ten gave us something to talk about here in the middle of the week as well.
Yeah, let's first unpack what happened this morning. A decision that was made, I don't know, a little over a month ago, and then the Big Ten decides to reverse its decision. I feel like I've just been through a WWE pay-per-view where the official inexplicably reverses his decision. Somebody walks away with a world championship belt, and the crowd is like, huh? So, I'm happy that the Big Ten has decided to play football. What I'm not happy with is they just kept this to football, and all the fall sports, yeah, you're still canceled.
Yeah, I mean, the whole process was really just poorly done. I mean, it was one of those things where, I don't want to get into the motives of the Big Ten. I'll just tell you what they did. What they did was rush a decision unnecessarily, especially when you consider the fact that this entire time the players have been practicing. So there was no reason to cancel when they did, when the season was still over a month away. And once they made that decision, it was going to take an extraordinary effort, which we saw, from people to get the season back. Whereas if they would have just shown the same level of patience and really not overreacted the manner in which they did to bad science, that's a fact, bad science, especially when you look at this myocarditis stuff, then they probably would have played, the same weekend that the SEC is playing. So that's the thing, is you have to make smart, sound decisions, and when you don't, you end up backing yourself into a corner where you can't just come out and say, whoops, our bad, and easily replace it. You have to do the kind of jumping through the hurdles that the Big Ten has had to do.
Well, the Big Ten's going to start their 8-game no-bye week schedule October 23rd and October 24th, and they'll take it all the way to the Big Ten championship game on December the 19th. Ironically enough, the committee has now moved their final decision to December the 20th, so the Big Ten is now going to be eligible to put a team, i.e. Ohio State, into the Final Four. So all's well that ends well, but yeah, they got some bad advice, and unfortunately, we have talked about this. I don't think that many people followed the science as well as they should have in this regard.
No, and that's the disappointing thing, and that's why so many people kept saying that there just seemed like there was a lot more to it than just concerns about COVID-19 or myocarditis. I mean, you talked about the Penn State study that came out that was just so incredibly flawed that he had to do an immediate retraction. To me, I'm sorry, that's something somebody should lose a job over. But we've seen a media narrative created, we've seen political narratives created, and at the end of the day, fortunately, the Big Ten had enough leadership from a player and coach standpoint that they were able to get this done, because if they had the same type of leadership from a coaching standpoint, a player standpoint that we've seen in the Pac-12, odds are we're not going to play, because the Pac-12 just yesterday finally started saying, hey, let us play. Well, hey, fellas, it's a little too late for that. You know, I mean, you're kind of passing your window. The Big Ten is kind of close to passing their window, because they're going to have a season. But how do you compare a 9-game Ohio State resume to a potential 12-game Notre Dame or Clemson resume, or an 11-game SEC Big 12 resume? It's still going to be weird here, and there's still going to be a lot of controversy about all of this.
Is it safe to say, and again, with all due respect to the Big Ten, it's not the Southeastern Conference. Is it safe to say that a non-undefeated team is not going to be getting into the Final Four?
There's no way that you can have an 8-1 team in the playoff. I mean, and the other thing is that with no non-conference, there's no way to evaluate the quality of the league. That's the other aspect into this. So when you combine that with the fact that, you know, you have an 8-1 team, or a 9-1 team, or an 8-1 team against a 10-1 Notre Dame team, or a 10-1 Clemson team, or a 10-1 Georgia team, I just don't see how you can stack those resumes up and say that this team that's played 2 or 3 less games gets in. Because here's the reality: the fewer games you play, the fewer opportunities you have to lose. And it's really unfair when you look at an SEC team that they've got to play 10 conference games plus an 11th game against a in a conference title game, and you stack it up against Ohio State, who's going to play 9. It doesn't add up.
Me and Ron talked about it before the air. Do you think there are some teams in the Big Ten, i.e. maybe Rutgers or Maryland, that aren't exactly ecstatic that there's going to be a season now, because they kind of had an opportunity to regroup and kind of not get their butt kicked every week?
Well, I mean, the players are going to want to play. I mean, look, kids love playing the game. And if the kids didn't want to get their butts kicked, then they would go somewhere else. Kids love playing the game. They love to compete. That's where they're at these schools. And they're going to look for that opportunity to go play and compete. And, I mean, Rutgers players don't look at it like they're going to get their butt kicked every week. They have confidence they're going to go out and play. And, then the season goes on and they get their butt kicked every week. But, these kids want to play. The weird thing is going to be when you get in a situation where, you have this 21-day sit-out rule if you test positive for COVID, which is just insane. And again, that's not science-driven. I don't believe there's a state in the country that has anything more than a 14-day quarantine if you test positive for COVID. And then how are they going to handle the contact tracing? And then, of course, if you have more than a 5%, positive rate, you can't play. Well, if you have 100 kids on your roster, that's 5 people. So it just seems like what they did was they created outs for people that don't ultimately want to play. And they can say, hey, look, we've had too many of this, or our campus-wide net positive rate is this, so, yeah, we can't play. It's just the whole thing is weird and unnecessary, and really the people that make your school the most money, football players, are collateral damage in a lot of this, unfortunately.
Brian Driscoll, our guest. You can check out his work by going to irishbreakdown.com, irishbreakdown.com. Brian, I'm watching the game last week, and it was sloppy early on, and then Notre Dame sort of woke up a little bit in the second half. But Ian Book had a nice day, productive day. There were times where I wanted to throw something at the TV set, which is normal when Ian Book is a quarterback. But there were also times where I looked and said, damn, we didn't see this the last couple of years in South Bend. But the guy that I was really impressed with was Williams, the running back. 112 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Oh, by the way, 2 receptions, 93 yards. This kid looked the part of a featured running back last week.
Oh, no question. And I was extremely concerned about the play of Ian Book. You're a lot more positive on Ian Book's play than I am. That's for sure. But, look, they need a good running game this year. And I think we saw some bursts from Chris Tyree. That's going to be a big part of their running game. We saw Jafar Armstrong in the screen game getting back to looking healthy. But they need a guy that they can count on to run the ball and run it physically and run it downhill and pick up the tough yards. And that's the thing I liked about Kyron Williams more than anything, more than his 75-yard run, more than even the read where he bounced it outside for the 26-yard touchdown. Even early in the game when there was not a lot of room, when the offensive line was getting beat at the point of attack, he was still hammering. He was still making sure that he was going to get as many yards as he could, and he was going to, put his foot down and just hammer the line and get extra yards, and that's going to be important. That's going to be important as we get into the season. There's going to be some games that are come down to whether or not Notre Dame can convert crucial 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s. And, yeah, it's good that he can bounce it outside. That was a great read and run, but it's also about sometimes you just got to know, okay, I can only get 2 on this play, so get your 2. And that was one of my criticisms of Josh Adams is he would rip off big runs, but there'd be 6 or 7 runs in a game where he'd lose 2 or 3 or 4 yards from what he should have had if he just hit it. It's not there. Just hit it, get what you can, and live to fight another day.
Brian Driscoll, our guest. So Notre Dame, they get a victory over Duke. It was sloppy, but they outscored Duke in the second half 17-7 en route to a 27-13 victory. They were a little too soft in the secondary, allowing Bryce to throw for 259. He averaged 7 yards per attempt. And they didn't pick him off, but then again, he also didn't throw a touchdown pass. But 259 in a game, I'm not too thrilled with that. But I thought Notre Dame did a very, very nice job against the run. Duke had 75 yards, 30 attempts, a 2.5 yard per carry average. Very, very nice against the run last week for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think the pass game had 3 bad plays. I think that's where a lot of those yards came from. You had the pick play early in the game, which a lot of Notre Dame fans thought should have been a penalty. I didn't think it should have been a penalty because my whole thing is you got to play the ball better. You can't not play the ball well and then expect to get bailed out by a penalty. So, I mean, that was a miscommunication, but they cleaned a lot of that stuff up. You had a blown assignment by Maris Luafau on a wheel route. But I thought overall, the pass defense was good. I thought Chase Bryce is a really good quarterback. I thought that when you look at Duke, yeah, they got 259 yards, but they needed 37 attempts to get there. He averaged 7 yards an attempt. That's not a great number, And then when you look at the fact that he only completed 54.1% of his passes because they harassed him a lot, I was pleased with it for the first game. And as I wrote about on Irish Breakdown, Duke has weapons. The thing that they didn't have last year was a quarterback. They've got one of the best offensive minds in the game. So I was really pleased, and I really liked the adjustments that Clark Lee made. Early in the game, they were having trouble getting pressure with their 3-man pressures out of the dime. So he made adjustments, started bringing Kyle Hamilton, started bringing Jeremiah Wusu. And when he turned those 2 guys loose, and then you have the emergence of Isaiah Foskey, you started to see a defense that has a lot of speed. And if they can clean up just a couple of things, it's got a chance to be another really good Notre Dame defense.
Notre Dame takes on the USF Bulls based out of Tampa, Florida, the University of South Florida, out of the American Athletic Conference. They bring with them a familiar name. 26-year-old Charlie Weiss Jr. is a fast-rising offensive coordinator in college football. He had spent a couple of years over at Florida Atlantic University. He is now the offensive coordinator for USF. And, well, he cut his teeth helping his dad out, Charlie Weiss, when Charlie was the head football coach at Notre Dame. He brings an interesting name, and he comes back home, and This will be an interesting homecoming for Charlie Weiss Jr.
Yeah, it will be. And look, Charlie Weiss, the dad, obviously didn't get the job done as the coach, and he had some personality things that brought some understandable heat upon him for how he talked to certain people. But I thought his son, Charlie Weiss Jr., was treated unfairly by a lot of Notre Dame fans. I'm going to be honest with you, and the fact that his dad had him on the sidelines of games and had him with a headset and all those kind of things, that's exactly what I would have done if I had a son his age and I was the head coach at Notre Dame and if my son had that interest. So I'm actually happy to see Charlie Jr. being successful and thriving. And anyone you talk to, he's just there because of his dad. Well, maybe he got that opportunity because of his dad, but nobody's making someone an offensive coordinator because they're friends with his dad. He's earned that opportunity, and good for him because – everything you hear about him, he's a good kid, he's smart, and he has a ton of potential as a coach. So you're going to see 2 very young offensive coordinators going to battle this Saturday. But let's be honest too, Ron, this is going to be a very heavily influenced Jeff Scott offense. and we saw what he and Tony Elliott did at Clemson the last several years. The good thing for Charlie Jr. is he's worked under some really smart offensive minds in the past, and he's working under another one at South Florida with Jeff Scott.
And when you talk about USF, at least what we saw last week, their absolute strength is their run game. They averaged more yards per carry than anybody in the country last week at 7.7. Granted, against Citadel, so not the greatest opponent to do that, but I still think Kelly Joyner Jr. is a great running back. So I got to imagine one of the biggest keys to victory for Notre Dame is stopping the run.
Yeah, and look, Kelly Joyner's a good back. He's not better than Deion Jackson, right? And the difference is that, like you said, they played the Citadel. Notre Dame played a good running back and a decent offensive line on Saturday against Duke, and this upcoming Saturday, there's actually going to be two really good backs for South Florida. I think they have a really good deep backfield, which I like. Johnny Ford's another one that I think is a good football player. But the South Florida offensive line, that's the big question mark. Now, it's going to look different than it did last week. They had 3 players on the starting offensive linemen that were out last week because they never said why. The speculation is that it is COVID-19 related, but they'll be back this week. So, this is going to be kind of their first game together. So do they play like a first game offensive line again with some of those mistakes and miscommunication? That part's going to be interesting. But the biggest thing that I took away from Saturday's game against Duke for Notre Dame was how well they played the run. And if you look at the two backs, Deion Jackson and Mateo Durant, they averaged just a little over 3 yards a carry. And Notre Dame held them to, I think it was like 50-some yards, like 59 yards or something like that. That is an outstanding output for Notre Dame when you consider their ability to dominate the game. And look, the game was competitive for 3.5 quarters. So it wasn't like Duke had to bail on the run game. They just couldn't get it going. And that's a really positive sign for Notre Dame, especially getting ready to play South Florida, which, like you said, is a team that's going to try to run football.
South Florida, 2016 and 2017, had double-digit victories. They fell off a little bit in 2018, going 7-6. The wheels completely fell off in 2019, going 4-8. Hence the reason why Jeff Scott was hired to be the new coach over at South Florida. This is a team that has 7 returning starters on both sides of the ball. You would expect Notre Dame to win this game comfortably, but, again, stranger things have happened, and I will say this tongue-in-cheek. We live in a COVID world. Anything is possible.
Yeah, look, that shouldn't be possible, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, Notre Dame went through the same offseason that South Florida did. The reason that South Florida struggled is Charlie Strong inherited a really good roster. He left Jeff Scott with not a really good roster. I mean, that's the biggest thing. There's some good players here and some good players there at spots. You guys talked about the running backs. There's some talented running backs there. Dwayne Boyles and KJ Sales are 2 outstanding defensive players. But the overall speed and talent of this South Florida team is nothing like what it was 4 years ago when Charlie Strong first got into Tampa. So this is a game that if Notre Dame is the team that they are supposed to be in the 11th year of Brian Kelly's tenure, this should not be a competitive football game. And if it is, after a sloppy first performance, I'm going to have to start to wonder if Notre Dame is maybe not going to be the team that they should be this year.
Well, the other thing that I would hearken to is, and this is something that has become a habit with Brian Kelly, Notre Dame tends to play down to their competition a little too often for my tastes, and I'm with you. I have Notre Dame winning the game 48-14, but my caveat is it wouldn't surprise me if this game is more like 34-20 because Notre Dame plays down to its competition.
Yeah, and that's why Notre Dame hasn't got to the level it needs to get to. I mean, that can't happen, right? If this is going to be the team that we expect it to be, then that can't happen. You need to – I mean, if you just go out there and just play a regular game, not out-of-your-mind performance, you should win this game by 30. There's that stark of a talent difference between these two teams. And honestly, South Florida, from a talent standpoint, is closer to teams like, New Mexico Green than they are – some of the teams that have given Notre Dame a battle in recent seasons. This is just not a really good roster. There's some good players in spots, but overall, this is just not a good roster, and this is the kind of roster Notre Dame needs to go out there and dominate. And if they can't, that's going to be a problem. But I honestly think that they will. I think they got the game one under their belts. They kind of got into the season. They can now get into a normal routine. And I think we're going to see Notre Dame play much better this week on offense. I think the defense will continue rolling, but I think the offense is going to play a lot better this week.
An interesting week in the ACC. North Carolina looked as impressive as we thought they'd look after a half of sloppiness. Clemson kept rolling against a team they historically dominate. Florida State looked as disappointing as they've been looking for the last 4 years. Virginia Tech couldn't play because of a COVID issue. What were some of your biggest takeaways from the weekend in the ACC?
Yeah, what was your last part? I didn't hear your last part of your question.
Oh, what was your biggest takeaways of the weekend in the ACC?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that Clemson's still going to be really good. I think I was concerned about how they were going to be this year, especially on defense. I thought their defense played really well. Again, it was the first game. Wake Forest doesn't have Sage Surratt, but I thought they were really good. They were physical, and they came out like a good team is supposed to come out against an inferior opponent in week one. They put them away early. And I thought Georgia Tech had a chance to be better. I think I voted them 11th or 12th in the preseason polls. I really like what Jeff Collins is doing, and I thought what we saw in that game was not just that Florida State is still Florida State from what we've seen in recent years, but that Georgia Tech is a quality football team, and they battled and they played hard. They still have a talent deficiency, but they're going to compete. They're going to battle, and I really liked what I saw from them. And with Sam Howell at North Carolina, we got to remember he's still just a sophomore, so he's going to have some mistakes like he made on Saturday against Syracuse. But as you saw, once he got hot and got rolling and eliminated those mistakes, that offense started moving really well.
Brian, give us some of the specials going on over at irishbreakdown.com.
Well, yeah, you sign up now. You can sign up monthly for $5.99 a month, or you can sign up annually for $59.99 a year. And if you do that, you get access to, obviously, all of our premium content. You get access to all the premium content on NFL sites, and you get a subscription to Sports Illustrated, the magazine, for as long as you are a member. And the good thing is this rate will not go up. This isn't a special rate where you get discounted now, and then a year from now when your credit card gets dinged again, it doubles the rate or whatever. This is our rate. So it's really a great deal, great value, and I think you're going to get great Notre Dame content.
Hey, Brian, always a pleasure, and I know that it's good to have college football back, and I know you guys have been really, really busy, and the Notre Dame Nation has responded. You guys are getting an awful lot of hits on irishbreakdown.com.
Yeah, we really have, and it's been a testament to Notre Dame fans. We have grown each week and each month for the last 2 months, and this past month was by far our best month as far as page views. And we were one of the top 2 network, college sites in the SI Maven network this past week or these past 2 weeks. So that's a big thank you to all the Notre Dame fans to check out our site. But we want to be number one, so we need more people to keep coming and keep coming back. We have tons of content every day, so make sure you check out what we're doing.
Notre Dame taking on the University of South Florida, and this game is a yawner when NBC says, yeah, we're going to move the game to USA, which is a subsidiary of NBC, so technically they're still honoring the NBC contract, but it's a yawner when the Peacock says, yeah, we're going to move the game over to USA.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what was it, a couple years ago, they had like the Miami-Ohio game or something like that. You're like, yeah, this isn't the game we care about, so we're just going to go ahead and move you over to USA. So people are reminded that we actually have the USA Network, and it's going to be a weird day for sure.
We'll talk next Wednesday, break down the USF game, and preview Notre Dame and Wake Forest, a game that will start at 12 noon next Saturday. Brian, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you soon, brother.
Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Brian Driscoll, our Notre Dame guru, and you can check out his work. I love checking out his work at irishbreakdown.com.
USA, the home of table tennis in the Summer Olympics now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the home of Raw. Let's not forget about that. Monday Night Raw is on USA.
USA used to always be a channel to go to for a good movie if you were bored, but now it seems like they just show nothing but marathons of Law & Order. Disappointing.
Law and Order is a good show.
It's a good show.
Yeah,
I wasn't disparaging
TV
Law and
show.
Order. I was just saying that, you don't want to go into if you're looking for something to watch. USA was usually like, it usually has a pretty good movie on, but now it's like hey, I'm in the middle of the Law and Order season and don't know what's going on, and I'll just watch this. Bum, bum.
Dong dong. Who's the guy that? Who was the guy that played Baby's father on Dirty Dancing? He was the guy that was one of the detectives. What was it, Jerry Orbach? Was that the guy's name? He had some of the driest one-liners you will ever hear in a TV series. And so it's like his detective partner will set him up with something, and then he'll just come up with a zinger out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. All right, that's good. I like that raw, dry humor of yours. All right, 330-886-0813. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. We have what do we have? We have Brian Tolnar coming up at 1 o'clock. It's Wednesday. We're going to be previewing the U.S. Open, and that is major number 2. I don't think we have the British Open this year, so there's only 3 majors this year because the British Open was kaput, courtesy of COVID. So we already have the PGA. So we get the U.S. Open this week, and then later in the fall we'll have the Masters tournament from Augusta.
Did you see what happened in the U.S. Open on the tennis side of things, where Novak Djokovic just kind of nonchalantly hit a ball after he lost a point?
Yeah,
and it went right into the line judge's throat.
Yep.
And he's automatically disqualified.
Hey, I mean, if you're pissed, you probably shouldn't take it out on a ball that takes it out on a line judge.
When I read the story, I was surprised that it happens more often than you think, that a player gets mad and hits a ball and it hits someone in the line judge kind of area, because there was an incident, I think in 2016, an incident a couple years before that, and wow, I didn't think. I was like, man, why did they come up with this rule? This is kind of silly. But then you look at it, and this happens a lot. Apparently, one tennis player broke a guy's orbital with a tennis ball, or the orbital bone, because he got mad and just hit it at someone.
One thing that I can say about McEnroe, he didn't hit anybody. He just he destroyed his rackets, and he was verbally abusive toward line judges and whatnot. But he didn't hit anybody with a tennis ball.
And then everyone brought up what Serena did a couple years ago, where she just really verbally attacked the line judge.
Yeah, and it's not the first time that someone's lost their mind and verbally attacked a line judge in tennis, and it surely won't be the last time. But I mean, which one would you rather have? Someone yelling at you, or a ball coming about 105 miles an hour to your throat? So
I don't know. In baseball, it's okay. In tennis, it gets you disqualified.
I mean, it all depends on when you throw the ball, when you're hitting someone, I guess. But
saying,
Joe, it was just a stupid thing for him to do. I mean, my gosh.
And he didn't even look that upset. He just kind of was walking off and just kind of hit the ball.
Yeah.
And it just had the misfortune of bouncing right at the line, and it hit her like right in the throat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, that was just, it was crazy. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm like, dude. I mean, I understand you're frustrated, but you can't do stuff like that. I mean, that just for me, it taints his greatness for me. I mean, that's like with McEnroe, the same thing. It's your shenanigans off the court where you're moaning and groaning to an official saying you cannot be serious, and you're yelling and stuff like that. I mean, that just tainted. Okay, great tennis player, great serve and volley player, absolutely. Idiot, absolutely. I mean, give me a guy like Federer or Sampras, someone that wasn't a whiny bitch on the tennis court, or someone that was so deranged that he would bounce a tennis ball and drill it. And I don't think he had the intention of hurting anybody, but still, I mean, if you're doing that, you better make damn sure that ball's not going to be hitting anybody.
Right. I mean, I don't get why you just don't hit it straight down, because then it bounces straight back up.
Yeah, exactly. I just when I saw that, I was like, dude. Okay, you're not Roger Federer. I'm sorry. You might be as good as him on the tennis court, but you are never going to be in his class in terms of class, because that was just despicable. So and of course this is coming from the person that basically does the same thing when I'm losing. So.
You play tennis?
Well, I mean, I used to, and I used to beat the crap out of my rackets and whatnot. So
our section of Ponos tennis.
Yeah, well, I don't play it very well. That's for damn sure. And that was about 40 plus pounds ago when I was somewhat. I don't think I've ever been in shape, but I was somewhat in shape. I used to, slow as I am, I'm slower than molasses. You imagine me getting to a ball where the ball is hit pretty good, and I'm trying to $6 million man in slow motion trying to get the ball, and damn.
Is that your tennis grunt?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I saw Monica Seles play a lot, so the grunt has to be there.
It's gotta be.
It's got to be there. And the guy that is now grunting really loud in baseball, Rich Hill.
Oh.
And I had the opportunity to call his games in 2005 when he was in AA ball with the Cubs. He had a wicked curveball back then, and I knew that if he ever had control. Because the book on him in minor league ball was his control was just awful, and that was one of the reasons why he wasn't going to be a prospect that goes to the major leagues unless he gets his control under control.
Control under control.
Yeah, there you go. And he finally did. Well, my Lord, the last time he pitched against the Indians, I thought I was the reincarnation of Monica Seles on a tennis court. Every time he threw the ball. Like, what the hell? What are you, taking a crap while you're throwing the ball? Lord.
You might see some brown dribbles.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a pitcher crap down their leg before, but not literally.
Wickren.
330-886.
Absolutely crap down his leg.
Oh, God. Don't even remind me. 330-886-0813. We mentioned a weird way to lose a game. You had runners at first and third, one out, bottom of the ninth. The Indians had just tied the game. And as much as I've given Francisco Lindor all kinds of crap, last night Lindor stepped up and played his ass off.
In the leadoff spot.
And really did a nice job.
Where he's comfortable.
Well, where he's comfortable. So you got runners at first and third in a tie ball game. And Whitgren hits the batter to load the bases.
First pitch, too.
First pitch to Cameron Maben. Hit him. Ball game over. Good night, everybody. Cubs win. And it's just 7 games now, 7-game losing streak. That was probably the most painful of the 7 losses because the Indians had fought back to tie the ball game in the top of the 9th inning, only to watch what has been the best pitching staff in Major League Baseball just completely crap on themselves in the bottom of the 9th inning. It is what it is. Yeah, it's when you're going bad, stuff like that happens.
When it rains, it pours.
Indeed. So the Indians will play the Cubs again tonight. Final game of the series. Savali on the hill for the Tribe. He'll be opposed by Mr. Lester. And the Tribe will try to snap a 7-game losing streak, which, by the way, if we are going to a 162-game season,
Don't say it.
that 7-game losing streak is 19 games in a row. 19. 1-9.
You took the Indians fans that were trying to glimmer of hope, and you just jabbed them with an ice pick and twisted it.
Here's the thing, though, and here's the scary part of this. The Indians are actually in pretty decent shape still. Well, I mean, a 7-game losing streak aside, what do you have? 12 games left in the season. You got 1 game left with the Cubs, 4 left with the White Sox, 4 left with the Tigers, 3 left with the Pirates. 12 games left. Go 8-4. Yeah, 8-4 will get you 34 wins.
It might be you're not going to win the division, so it doesn't.
No, absolutely not.
You'd like to get second.
Yes.
And the Twins won last night, right?
No, they got beat by the White Sox.
Okay, well, you have to root for the Twins to win a couple games in that series. And then when you get that White Sox series, if you can win that series and get into second place, that's the best case scenario for them.
Well, they're 3 games behind Minnesota, 2 in the loss column.
Yeah.
And they're 6 games behind the White Sox. I mean, the Central Division is done for the Indians. Yeah. Best you can do is finish in second place. I mean, unless Minnesota wins these final 2 games and splits the series with Chicago and they get back to within a game and then crap on themselves to keep the White Sox in first place while the Indians gain, let's say, 2 games. And they're within 4 of the White Sox going into that 4-game series. Well, then you know what you have to do. You have to sweep the White Sox to get them tied with Chicago.
Really hard to sweep a 4-game
Exactly. Especially the way the White Sox are playing. Look, they've won 6 in a row, 9 of their last 10. Oh, by the way, they have the best record in the American League, and it's not even close.
Oh, and by the way, they have the best hitter in the American League, and it's not even close right now with Jose Abreu. The way that he's hitting the ball right now.
Although Nick Voigt would like a conversation because he leads the American League in home runs right now. This is the guy that
home runs.
That I thought.
I think Abreu also has a good average, and I would say right now, all around, right now, Abreu's having the best season in the AL. And
either he or Trout.
He's 1 behind in home runs. So
yeah, I mean either he or Trout. Trout's having a typical Mike Trout type of year, and it's a damn shame. 20 and 29. Man, I would love to see Trout in the postseason. I think Major League Baseball would love to see Trout in the postseason.
And I think he's only been in the postseason once in his career.
Yeah.
And they lost they got swept by the Royals in 2014.
Yeah.
They were the 1 seed. That was the year where the Angels were expected to really be good. Yeah, they got swept in the DS.
Yeah, that's just it's hard. It's disheartening. Now, having said that, Willie Mays didn't go to the World Series all that often, and back then they didn't have ALDS, NLDS. They lined the team up top to bottom in each league, and the top teams went automatically to the World Series because you didn't have divisional play until 1969. So Ted Williams only was in 1 or 2 World Series. Willie Mays was 3, I want to say, because I know he was in the 54 World Series with the New York Giants. He was in the World Series against the Yankees in '62, and then his last year in baseball when he was with the New York Mets. So
3 is way above average.
Yeah,
I mean, not a lot of guys can say they were in 3 World Series.
This is true. All right, we're going to take a timeout. On the other side, we'll catch up with Brian Tolnar. Ah, yes, the U.S. Open. It's a major. This late in the year? Oh, yeah. Welcome to COVID. It's a major. We'll talk about the U.S. Open with Brian Tolnar. That's coming up after this. Stick around.
For heating, cooling, and indoor air quality, the Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy-efficient experts.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in the Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Insurance continues to be the area's resource for all your Medicare and retirement needs. Call today, 330-286-3044.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. The U.S. Open is happening this week over at Wingfoot Golf Club in New York on Long Island. And to talk about that, among other things, we bring in our golf guru, Mr. Brian Tolnar over at Mill Creek. Brian, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. A lot of golf action and a great weekend for getting our second of 3 majors in this year with the U.S. Open.
All right, let's before we get into the U.S. Open over at the historic Wingfoot Golf Club on Long Island, let's talk a little bit about what is going on over at Mill Creek.
A lot of action, a lot of activity. We just finished up our cart path renovation, I want to say about a week or two ago. They're out there doing some shoulder work on it as we speak. Going to hydro seed, get that all prepped and ready. Make the ride nice and smooth. In addition to that, we've got our senior fall roundup. So I've got 120 plus of our senior league players out there wrapping up their league season for the year this afternoon, finishing in about a half hour or so. So it's exciting. Bittersweet that their season's coming to an end, but it is mid-September, so that's normally the time where they go, and hopefully we'll get some continued fall golf out of everybody. And it's been weather-wise, it's been exceptional, so we can't complain.
All right, let's break down the U.S. Open. This is the second of 3 majors. Again, the British Open was canned courtesy of COVID, so we go into the middle of our 3 majors for this 2020 PGA Tour. Wingfoot Golf Club on Long Island. Before we break down the U.S. Open, let's break down the golf course. This course has hosted the U.S. Open before. It's a great course.
It is. It's probably better venue for a U.S. Open. They've held some PGA Championships there. It's really built for a U.S. Open where you've got some narrow fairways. You've got some rough that you can let get out of control and pretty deep in some spots. Traditionally, when they go to a PGA Championship there, they kind of shave everything down, let the players score a little bit. Definitely will not see that this week. You're going to see some narrowed fairways, step primary cup of rough, step cutter rough, whatever you want to call it. Beyond 2 or 3 feet of that, you're in some heavy cabbage. Same goes for around the greens. I think that's probably going to be why this golf course is going to play tough. I want to say in 2006, which was the Mickelson off the tent and Colin Montgomery falling apart down the end, basically where they handed that U.S. Open to Jeff Ogilvy. I want to say 4 or 5 over was the winning number there that particular year. So I think you could see some similar characteristics in scoring. Even par, maybe one or two at the most under par. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw the champion this week at 2, 3, 4 over par, based on how narrow and firm and fast the fairways are playing this week, and as well as the heavy rough that's around the green. So once you've been able to navigate from tee to green, the greens have so much undulation in them, and they'll be probably 13 on the step meter with the contours and the slopes that they have on them. It's definitely going to be a really true test of golf. And I think if you look at the scorecard, right out of the gate, you're getting a 451-yard par 4 with a narrow fairway. So, I mean, you got holes like that. You jump to the 5th, another par 4 at 502, traditionally played as a par 5 for the club. Players this week will be playing it as a par 4. Number 9, probably one of the few scoring holes out there. It's a par 5 coming in at 565. Again, lengthy par 5s even for PGA Tour standards. That really wraps up your front 9 of 400-plus yard par 4s. The third hole is 243 yards at a par 3. Even for those guys, you could see some long irons, especially if they get some weather. Now, the weather, I think, with exception of Thursday, it's a little bit dicey Thursday, but the rest of the week doesn't look bad at all. If you get some wind, and traditionally they do get a little bit there, some of those holes can play extremely tough. And the back 9 is just a throw putt punch after a throat punch, and start at 12. You've got a par 5 that's 663 yards. Maybe 2 or 3 players in the field are going to be able to get it home there. It's very high risk, high reward. And then the last 5 holes, I call them the gauntlet because, you're basically walking on eggshells every single one of those holes. 452, 426, 498, 504, 469, all par 4s. So it's going to be tough if you're 2 or 3 shots back to make a birdie in that pairing or bunching of holes. If you can hold on to pars, make a bogey, it may not cost you that much coming down the stretch. But this tournament on Sunday will definitely be determined by who plays 14 through 18 in really good shape. Now, the year that Jeff Ogilvy won and beat out Phil Mickelson and Colin Montgomery, he chipped in on 17. He played 18 well, and those guys ended up, I think Colin made a double on the last hole, and Phil made double or triple, to just edge out getting into a playoff. But down the stretch, you're going to see a lot of carnage, typical of what we normally would see at a U.S. Open, with the exception of the past couple. Obviously Gary Woodland at Pebble shoots 13 under. I think it really agitates the guys from the USGA's perspective that guys are going that low on courses that are soft and are favorable. So I think this week you're going to see a more traditional 1 over, 2 over, 3 over finish. A little bit different than Brooks Koepka at Erin Hills in 17. I think he shot 16 under, broke the scoring record. So the USGA hates when guys shoot that deep or that low under par. So I think they're going to make the golf course very challenging and extremely tough this week.
When you talk about how tough the course is, you can kind of use this question to segue into your Power 5 if you want to. But when you talk about the sleepers this week, do you think it's going to be harder for the sleepers to sneak into the leaderboard just because of how tough the course is, or do you think it's still going to be on an even plane just everyone's struggling? And then you can segue that into your Power 5.
See, I think the way the golf course is going to be set up, you have to be an extremely accurate driver, and I think even if you miss a fairway or two, you're going to have to be able to find a way to make a par, get it up and down. Traditionally, the guys that obviously Dustin Johnson, rightfully so, is the favorite. He bombs the ball. I don't think length gives you that much advantage this week because it's more about finding the fairway. So I really could see a guy that doesn't hit it that far off the tee, but if he's hitting 75 or 80% of the fairways, he's going to be in a way better position than a guy that's hitting at 300 and hitting 4 or 5 fairways throughout the course of the round. And I think, you probably might see somebody that you're not familiar with pop up. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a no-name that won the Open, or a guy that's won 1 or 2 times on the PGA Tour. It's not like a Koepka or not like a Dustin Johnson. Ironically, Koepka's out this week with some injuries and stuff, so he's not going to play. But, he would have been probably my legitimate choice. He's won it in 17, won it in 16. He was runner-up in 19. So, the guy plays U.S. Opens like it's his job. But I think you will find a guy that not necessarily, is a household name coming out victoriously at the end, just for the way that the golf course is set up. And I think it brings in a pool of people that you wouldn't normally have at a day in and week out PGA Tour event. So I think that being said, we'll jump right into the top 5 this week. Obviously going with a former U.S. Open champion who knows how to hit a lot of fairways. I think it's going to be a premium. And if, the more that you can find, the better. I'm starting off with Webb Simpson, the 2012 U.S. Open champion at Olympic. Certainly has the accuracy off the tee. He's won twice in 2020. He doesn't have a 10-plus PGA Tour wins, has an ample number of them, has a major under his belt, and I think that would help him go into Saturday and Sunday. So Webb Simpson's my number 1 pick. Number 2 this week, Patrick Cantley. He's from the West Coast. He putts well on greens that are POA, very similar to what you're going to see at Winged Foot this week. Going to have a little bump to him, especially if you've got some of the morning pairings where that seed head's just bouncing up a little bit. 2-time winner on the PGA Tour. He won at the Memorial, so he's used to tough conditions. I think he could be very well in the mix at week's end. Paul Casey, another one of those guys, has a few PGA Tour wins under his belt, certainly doesn't have a major. Always seems to have some top 5s or top 10s in about every major across the board. He's part of the 40-plus crowd. I think, being patient, being conservative off the tee is certainly a characteristic of his game, and I think he would be in the mix as well. Xander Schofley comes in at 4 this week. He's got, top 3 and 5 finishes in majors. Certainly doesn't have a win out there. I think he could have a breakthrough win, very similar to what we saw with Morikawa at the PGA Championship. You're going to get your first win, but it's going to be a major. I think he follows in that mold. And number 5 this week, Hideki Matsuyama. He's a runner-up in 17 behind Kochrack. Hits a ton of fairways, which is the recipe for this week. The more that you get yourself in the fairway, the better opportunity you're going to have hitting irons into these greens and giving yourself some opportunities to maybe knock down a 15 or 20-foot birdie putt, but ultimately you're walking away with par where guys are missing greens or missing the fairways and hitting it in the rough, having a tough time hitting green. You're certainly going to be a shot or two of an advantage in an average score throughout the course of the week. So I think those are the names that you're going to see. Some sleepers this week I had was Ricky Fowler, Justin Rose, and Jimmy Walker. Jimmy Walker's got a game very similar to Webb Simpson. Plots his way around, hasn't won too many times on the PGA Tour, has won, 6 or 8 times, knows what it takes to get the job done. And I think, hitting a number of fairways certainly puts him in contention. Justin Rose, his past victory in the 2013 U.S. Open at Marion, hits a lot of greens, makes those 10 or 15 footers that you need Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon for those hard-fought pars to try to eliminate a bogey or two and eliminate the big numbers. Ricky Fowler, believe it or not, from tee to green, hits a lot of fairways and hits a lot of greens. So I think that goes with Hideki Matsuyama, that hits the ball well off the tee, puts himself in position to give himself a number of birdie putts. And Ricky's game from 5, 6, and 8, 10 feet in is pretty good when he does hit the green. So I expect him to do something. And again, Ricky Fowler's won 3 or 4 times on the PGA Tour. His biggest win is at the Tour Championship at the Players Championship at Ponte Vedra. So it's a big stage event with one of the matching purses actually, with $12.5 million to the winner this week. It's tied for the Players Championship purse, so he knows what to do on a big stage, and I could see him there. And I think the fans would be super excited to have him break through, obviously get his first major and get on the board with another win this year as well.
Brian Tiltner, our guest, breaking down the U.S. Open. I have Jon Rahm winning this thing, and I say this because he's had a really good year to this point. There's a couple of things that he'll need to do in order to get the victory, but I could see Jon Rahm being competitive and being amongst the contenders on a Sunday. I'm curious to hear what your opinion is on 2 of the longer hitters on tour. Bryson D Shambo. Obviously he hits the ball better than anyone in terms of the length off the tee. But he's also done a real nice job of saving par this year, and it seems to me in a course like what we're going to see in the U.S. Open, if you can go up and down and save par, you should be in pretty decent shape. What do you think of DeChambeau? And then locally, Jason Kochrack will be in the U.S. Open. He'll be golfing very early tomorrow morning. What would Jason need to do extraordinarily well in order to make some noise on Saturday and Sunday?
Well, I think going into Jon Rahm, obviously, if he putts it as well as he has all year, he's certainly going to be a big contender in the U.S. Open. It's a matter of how many fairways can he hit from start to finish in 72 holes. I think that's probably the only question mark with him. As it goes for Bryson DeChambeau, we just actually had the Bridgestone sales rep in here, and they did some PR stuff with him last week and basically gave us the insight on what his game plan for the week is. And it could be a little bit questionable. His goal this week is to try to overpower the entire golf course, hit it as far as he can off the tee. Even though that he hits it in the rough, he's going to have mid to short irons into the holes, and he's going to take his chances and trying to hit greens out of the heavy rough with the short irons and mid irons. To be honest with you, I think it's probably a recipe for disaster, and it's going to be tough to be able to get up and down. It's tough to be able to advance your ball. So it's probably not the right mindset for plotting your way around. I would much rather assume a guy hitting hybrids and fairway woods off the tee to guarantee himself the opportunity to hit out of the fairway. But if he thinks he can bomb it 340, 350 off the tee, you're going to be subject to whatever type of lie that you're going to get. Now, if it's trampled down in some areas, the ball's sitting down, even with the short iron, it's tough to hold firm and fast greens that have a lot of slope and undulation to them. But, he's a physics guy and thinks a little bit differently than the rest of us do, and, obviously has enough power game to be able to hit it out there, but you have to be very, very accurate. I mean, some of these fairways in some spots are 17 to 22 yards wide. So it's not that, wide of a fairway to be able to hit and try to bomb it to certain points. And the further that you hit it out, the more the fairways bottleneck. So, I mean, I don't know if it's an advantage or a disadvantage, but that's what his mindset was, based on the conversation that we had with our Bridgestone rep that spent some time with their crew last week down in Covington, Georgia. So I thought that was interesting. I've never heard anybody taking on the golf course at a U.S. Open like that, other than the Aaron Hills and the Shinnecock when they had it widened up a little bit when Gary Woodland and Brooks Koepka shot 13 under and 16 under. I think this week's setup of the golf course is going to be very different when it comes to that. So it's a matter of what you're going to do out of the rough. But that's going to be his mindset this week, and it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. As for Jason Kochrack, I think he's about 100 or 150 to 1 type of shot for the event. I really could see somebody at 100 to 150 and 1 pulling through this week. And I think for him to have a good week, obviously he drives it very straight. So his accuracy off the tee will be a normal week for him. He certainly has the length to get on, number 9 and 2 if he wanted to, and get it up close to the other par 5 on the back that measures in at 663. And I think if he putts it well, it's going to determine how well his week is. And if he can get off to a good start, even par, 1 over, 1 under, 2 under out of the gate, you certainly have the advantage of, if you're going out early, the greens are going to be fresh cut, very few spike marks. They're going to not have too much wear and tear. The late afternoon where you get the POA head popping through is where some of the guys are going to have trouble. So I always was a big proponent of, if I can get out of the gate early on greens that are pristine and then come back the next day in the afternoon, because what they'll do, if you're in the afternoon on Thursday, you'll be in the morning on Friday, and then they flip it so everybody has, close to the same conditions. But mindset and how you play out of the gate on day one really set the tone for the week. And if you can make some kind of a number or post some kind of a number out of the gate, put you in good position, even though that you're heading into an afternoon round on Friday where the greens may be a little bit more bumpier, but you've set the tone on how you want to play and you've shot a good score on Thursday. And I think it's, like any tournament, it comes down to a birdie fest. Well, this one, it comes down to, you're running a marathon, so you don't want to run as fast as you can out of the gate because you've got to go the long haul. And I think, but setting a good precedence from the first day on gives you some momentum going into Thursday or Friday trying to make the cut, and then heading into the weekend if you make the cut and doing some stuff on the weekend. But I think if he drives it well like he normally does, I think he's got a good chance as anybody in that second wave of players in that 100 to 150 to 1 shot. And I think he's got a legitimate chance in just how he plays.
Brian, I got to ask you and comment on this. Obviously, Kochrack will start at 7:12 tomorrow morning. He'll be teeing off on the back 9 first. He'll tee off on the 10th hole. That is the third group that will be out there. The first group starts at 6:50. from the first hole and the 10th hole. And then you have a 7:01 start from the first and 10th hole. Then you have a 7:12 start, and Kochrack is going to be playing with Tom Lewis and Preston Summerhays on the 10th tee. Third group, he should have a pretty decent outing, but I wanted to get your take. You made mention about how you want to be able on a Thursday to start really, really early. When is it to the point where it's no longer early? What grouping would the advantage now turn into a no advantage or disadvantage the further along you go?
Well, I think normally what they'll do is they'll have about 90 minutes worth of tee times or 2 hours worth of tee times. If you're in that last probably 4 or 5 groups, and you obviously running a split tee, gets people out there a little bit earlier because they have the afternoon split tee. Traditionally, they're at 156 players. I think with the COVID and the, not being able to have the qualifiers, I believe they're at like 140 or 144 will be the final field. So you eliminate some of those groups right out of the gate by just not having that. But I mean, if I'm before, if you're going off at 7 and I'm before 7:30, 7:45, I'm feeling pretty good. And then that's about 8 o'clock with the foot traffic. It's going to start changing a little bit, and you've got some growth coming in there, depending if the sun's out or not. If the sun's out early, that seed head will be popping by the last 4 or 5 groups, and then in the afternoon, it's really up there. So they become a little bit more bumpier. The POA is actually something their superintendent has embraced up there as opposed to being bent. A lot of places will try to get rid of the POA and really try to change those to bent. They've got the mindset of we're not going to fight it. You're always going to have that because the climate is going to be cooler in the spring and cooler in the fall. So it's just going to be something that they deal with on a yearly basis. I think Jason's pairing I think is good. Little known fact: Preston Summerhays was playing as an amateur. He was the U.S. Junior amateur champion. He actually played in our AJGA event here 3 years ago. So. Pretty cool tie-in that he's got to play Mill Creek, and now we're going to see him play as a junior amateur on the basically the PGA Tour, the U.S. Open, playing in a USGA event. So it's exciting to be able to see that, plus being able that he's paired with Jason Kochrack from here. So I think that storyline itself is pretty unique. But the latter end of the tee times for the morning will certainly be where it's taken its toll, and then your afternoon are in that boat as well.
For my pick, I'm going a little bit down the odds list. I'm going to pick Tony Finau. So what do you think of Mr. Finau's chances to compete this weekend?
I like Finau. I think he's definitely going to be a guy that's in the mix, and he's definitely shown that he's a solid candidate in a major championship. His history at the Masters has been unbelievable the past couple years. He's in the top 10, 12, or 15 at probably his last 2 or 3 Masters. So I think he's going to become a household name. Another one of those guys that only has 1 or 2 wins that fits the mold of who I think is going to win this week. Based on you don't have to have a resume of 20 or 30 wins. You got to deal with the U.S. Open pressure, and like Morikawa did at the PGA Championship, I think you're going to have a player like that break through that has 1 or 2 wins or maybe no wins on his resume, and at the end of the week survives the carnage of everybody falling apart, like they did back there in 2006 when Phil Mickelson blew the title chance there, and Colin Montgomery did the same. So, I think the person who posts the score on Sunday with 4 or 5 holes left to go, I'm liking that guy in the clubhouse like Jeff Ogilvy was. I mean, he was an afterthought to the point where he was 2 or 3 back before Mickelson and Montgomery started their slide on 16, 17, and 18. So if I'm 1 or 2 back or tied for the lead, and I'm going in the clubhouse, and I know that those guys have a couple holes left, I'm feeling pretty darn good about myself. And I wouldn't be surprised this week too, and I'll make this call if there's a Monday playoff, because I think you could legitimately have 3 or 4 people at 3 over par, 4 over par, 2 over par, that tie coming down the stretch, and people just limp their way into a playoff scenario. So I think that the Winged Foot is sort of built that way with the last 5 holes, to where you're not going to make a birdie or 2 coming down the stretch, or you do like Ogilvy did, chipped in on 17 for, I want to say it was for birdie to get within 2, and then made it to the clubhouse in time the odds of making birdies coming down the last 3 or 4 holes, if you can do it, you've played a hell of a tournament. But I think realistically, you're going to see a lot more bogeys and people dropping 2 or 3 shots coming to the clubhouse at the end of the day on Sunday. So I wouldn't be anyone surprised that you could have a 3 or 4 player playoff with a Finau, with a Morikawa, with Daniel Berger or Patrick Cantley, guys of that caliber.
Brian, talk a little bit about that Monday playoff, because we're so accustomed in sports to have everything finish that day, would be it overtime, be it on the PGA Tour. Well, we're going to play the 18th again, and then whoever has the lower score winds up winning the playoff. I absolutely love the format from the U.S. Open. Hey, you're tied. Okay, not only are you going to be playing golf on Monday, you're not playing one hole, you're playing the entire course. I absolutely love that idea.
I'm 100% with you, and if you're a fan of golf, I don't know how you're not excited to see a Monday playoff. I believe the last one was in 2008, which was the Tiger Woods and Rocco Mediate. Talk about a phenomenal 18-hole playoff between both of those guys that had completely different golf games back in 2008. So I think the excitement of that type of a scenario, really makes the U.S. Open of its own. And I think it's cool, too, that if you're in the last couple groups and you limp home and you get in that playoff and you've got a guy that's finished an hour before you and was 2 shots back like the Jeff Ogilvy, that guy's been out hitting balls, chipping and putting, and this guy's been leaking oil his entire way in. So, you've got one guy that doesn't get a chance to go hit a bucket of balls and figure out what he was struggling on, and you have the opposite with the guy that's been in for an hour, 45 minutes. So I think it's very fair to the players. And I just think the excitement on a Monday, putting that on in the pro shop or watching it on TV, especially in that case, it was when they went to the West Coast and they played in Torrey Pines at La Jolla. It was awesome for TV, and I think to be able to see that on a Monday. Now, obviously playing in New York, it'll be during the day, and it'll probably be over by 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon. It still has that level of excitement that, man, I can sit down and watch 2 or 3 guys go at it for the U.S. Open title. Very fair. Doesn't have to be wrapped up real quick at the end like a normal tour event. I think even with what the British Open did with the 5-hole aggregate score playoff, I think is super for the game of golf. But there's something about the U.S. Open playoff on a Monday that I just think is just very, very unique, and it couldn't be more fair to both players that are in that playoff, whether you finished first or an hour before. It gives everybody the same advantage to figure out what they need to figure out and then go out and get it on Monday.
Could you imagine if the folks at Augusta had this and they said, you know what, we're not going to have a one-hole playoff. You're coming back to Augusta on Monday, and you're going to play 18 holes, and we're going to see Amen Corner one more time. I just think it's such a great idea for golf to do away with the one-hole, the one-hole playoffs in the majors. I mean, in non-majors, if you want to go one-hole playoff in non-majors, all right, that's cool. But if we're talking major tournaments, give me the 18 holes. Give me a Monday afternoon, Monday morning, Monday afternoon. Give me that absolutely gorgeous golf course and the scenery of that golf course for one more day. I just think the PGA Tour would be so much better off if they decided with majors, yeah, you're going to be playing 18 holes on Monday.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the British Open has gone from a 1-hole to a 5-hole aggregate. I think they did a 3-hole deal before. The Masters, I think they did an 18-hole playoff one time. The rest of it's been, I want to say, a 3-hole playoff, and then they went back to the 1-hole playoff. So it's changed and evolved through the number of years. PGA Championship has always been you get up and you play immediately after to close that deal out. I think the USGA is probably one of the few things that I'll agree on, that they do and setting it up and being sadistic with pin placements and everything else. But I think that they do their playoff better than anybody. It showcases the game of golf one more day, and it's mano-a-mano, not one hole. You may not have had it on a hole, dictates who wins your championship. It's a true test of golf, and I think for a fan, this is exactly what you hope for. To see 2 or 3 players be able to duke it out, I think is phenomenal. And I would not be surprised if we saw one this year with how 2020 has gone, from start to finish, especially with COVID. And from a fan, I would just love to be able to watch it again on Monday and see 2 or 3 players go at it for the title.
All right, Brian, it's time for you to give us your tip of the week. Where are we at on the course today?
Tip of the week is what we call a knockdown shot. So it's going to be a scenario where you're playing in the fall, so it may be a little bit cooler, you may have a breeze, or you may have some heavy wind. We want to be able to get you to plot around the golf course and be able to hit fairways and greens and hit second shots in the par fours and give yourself the advantage of hitting greens, to be able to putt on days that the forecast is windy, whether it be a right to left wind or a wind in your face or downwind. We want you to be able to plot yourself around the golf course and give yourself the same advantage you would if it was 90 degrees and sunny. So what we're going to talk about today is the knockdown shot. Obviously, weather is a factor. The wind is a factor as well. You want to grab a club or 2 more than you normally would use. So if I'm at the 100-yard marker, for me, that would be my gap wedge. So now I'm going to go to a pitching wedge. I may even go to a 9-iron. We're going to make a medium to slow pace golf swing. We want to swing within ourselves. From a setup standpoint, you're going to set up directly how you'd normally would set up a pitching wedge, with the exception of we're going to move the ball back in our stance about 1 inch. So we're going to play that. If I played a pitching wedge 2 inches behind center, I'm going to play it 3 inches behind center. But I'm going to be cognizant of not playing it back too far, because what will happen is if you play it back too far, the tendency is the club's going to come through a little bit steeper, and it's actually going to do the opposite. It's going to put more spin on it. So we're going to move the ball back only 1 inch from its normal position in our stance. So you want to make sure that you aim the same exact way. The ball flight will be directly the same. If anything, the easier you swing, it may be, slicing a little bit. You may lose 1 or 2 yards to the right of the target. So other than that, it'll be relatively straight to how you swing. You want to take enough club to give yourself the opportunity to get it to the hole without trying to overpower it. A lot of times what will happen is when you get a club in your hand and you're trying to hit a knockdown, you're thinking, I got to hit it just a little bit harder, but you want to make sure that your rhythm and your pace from back to front is solid. The golf swing, you want to make sure that you take a 3/4 backswing and a 3/4 to half finish. And what I mean by that is we're not going all the way back where the shoulder's underneath your chin and the club's parallel to the target. When you're taking the backswing, making a full swing, we want to make sure that the club is a little bit more pointed at the sky. And when we're finished, we're making sure that the club is either pointed at the target or pointed at the sky a little bit. We don't want the club to go over our shoulders like it normally would. And the reason we do that is the higher we get the club, the more over our shoulders that we get, the more backspin, the higher that golf ball is going to fly. And again, we've got some wind to deal with, whether it be right to left, left to right, or in our face. We want to make sure that ball flight is coming off a little bit more penetrating. So in order to do that, we want to make sure we've got a 3/4 backswing, either half finished forward or 3/4 finished forward, but no more than 3/4. So I tell everybody you want to be about 70% of what your normal swing speed is, maybe a hair less. So if I swing the club 100 miles an hour, I want to make sure that I'm swinging it at 65 to 70 miles an hour. I'm letting the club do its work. By the ball position in the finish, it's going to take the backspin off. It's going to come out with a little bit of backspin, but not as much as it would on a normal shot where it would hit and check. The ball will have the tendency to hit when it hits the ground and release a little bit. So if you've got it like a blue flag, which is a deep pin or a middle pin, you're going to play the shot that's going to fly you. If it's a blue pin to the middle of the green, the ball will release back to the hole. If it's a white pin, play it to the front. And if it's a red pin, you want to play it about 5 yards short of the green, knowing that ball is going to hop up and release out to the hole. Now, if you've watched a couple of the Masters that they've had wind down there, Mickelson is a good example because the year that he won, I want to say in 2006, it was really windy. Conditions were firm. So he hit a lot of shots that were short of the green, if not on the front of the green, and he chased them back, 15 or 20 yards of roll because you don't have that backspin. So you have to allow for that. So that's the shot you want to have from a mindset standpoint as I'm in the fairway. If I have 100 yards, I'm going to play the shot with a pitching wedge or a 9-iron, make a nice soft swing with it, knowing that ball is going to hit, not like it normally would with a pitching wedge or 9-iron and stop. It's going to release back to the hole. So if you do those things, you'll take any of the bad conditions, whether it be rain, whether it be wind, really out of play. So it gives you some advantage when you're dealing with some adverse weather territory.
Brian, always a pleasure with the tip of the week. What is going on in terms of any kind of specials for this weekend and into the fall golf season over at Mill Creek?
Well, right now we're still holding our own, so we're basically status quo at this point. Next week we do have our American Junior Golf Association here on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, where we have normally 156 players of the best juniors in the world from 12 to 15. Normally they have a 100-player qualifier for 4 or 5 of those spots, 6 of those spots, and then they'll have a split tee in the morning and the afternoon, kind of like what you're going to see at the U.S. Open. This traditionally always runs in June, the same week as the U.S. Open. However, it'll be 1 week later this year with how the COVID schedule fell. The field will be a little bit smaller. It's 78 players. They will have a 72-player qualifier for, I think, 4 spots, 2 boys, 2 girls. And then they'll play 36 holes here at Mill Creek. We love it because it brings a lot of money to the valley from a financial impact standpoint. We fill the hotels, the rental cars, the restaurants, the whole 9 yards. Usually about $500,000 in revenue a week. It'll be down a little bit this year just because of the size of the field. Do another probably $10,000 to $15,000 in local charity. So it's an event that we're excited to host, obviously being a national event, one of 114 and one of 2 events that are in the state of Ohio from a national recognition. And the players that we've had, like we talked about, Preston Summerhays played in the field here, 3-4 years ago. Max Moldovan, who won the first 2 events, was their player of the year last year. He played in the U.S. Open. He played in the U.S. Amateur. He's committed to Ohio State. The caliber of players and the people that you see here from not only all 50 states, but an international standpoint is pretty darn impressive, and it's like watching the PGA Tour event. So we're certainly excited to have these young folks here next week and continue fall golf here, which I think is going to go right through Thanksgiving, just the way that our weather pattern has been all year and just the way that the golf course condition-wise is in. And I think it's going to be exciting to have people continue to play, continue to get outdoors, and then when they're done, come in and be able to watch the U.S. Open this weekend is pretty cool.
And Brian, I know the high school golf scene starting to wind down. A lot of conference championships going on this week. What can you give us a quick high school recap of last week and the week to come in the high school golf realm?
Well, we've certainly had a ton of golf matches here this past week. I know Canfield and Boardman, and I want to say South Range played, and I think Canfield got the better of everybody in that tri-match. Really good match. And then we had Fitch here as well playing Canfield. I think they just beat them by a shot or 2 last night. I think they're playing extremely well. Poland girls have played very good for graduating a lot of kids on their team last year. The girls' team there, I think, is exceptional. And then the Boardman girls have been holding their own. They beat Hubbard this week. I want to say they gave Poland a run for their money, and Hallen was here as well. So I believe they edged them out too. So everybody is getting down to the nitty-gritty. We're getting to the point where conference championship time is right around the bend, and everybody's got maybe 1-2 max matches left before we head into sectionals and districts and in the state championship, which is traditionally in the month of October, early October. So it's hard to believe that the high school golf season is almost coming to an end, knowing where we started and all the COVID regulations and all that. Just like high school football, we're halfway through the season almost before the playoffs here start. So it's exciting for the kids, and it's exciting to see who makes it, out of here locally, has an opportunity to go to districts and go to the state qualifier. But I think we certainly have some talent that'll be competitive and making the folks in Mahoning Valley proud.
What's really weird is we're going to be 3 weeks into the postseason on the high school gridiron when the Big Ten finally starts playing. I mean, that just
How about that?
welcome to 2020 and welcome to a screwed up world where high school football in the state of Ohio is going to be in week number 3 of the postseason. Hey, Big Ten, you guys, come on, time for you to play football. Let's go.
I'll tell you what's been the oddest, and this past weekend we had the Notre Dame game on in the Pro Shop. The first time that I've seen a collegiate football game on a television, and like you're used to being like a month and a half under your belt of games. I was like, oh, that's weird to even see that on TV. Because we haven't watched any football. I mean, it's been golf and some of the other sports as well. So it was weird to see that. But I mean, the Big Ten. I mean, personally, how could you drop the ball more than they did with their whole season? I mean, the commissioner of the league has got a kid that plays the SEC. It's okay for his kid to play, but it's not okay for the Big Ten to play. I get it. You have a couple states out there that are limiting the access to whatever's going on there, but I mean, Big Ten football is just a staple of living in the Midwest. So it's strange to not be able to see it, and then it feels like half the season is going to be over when they start. So this whole year's been strange.
Yeah, it certainly has. Hey, Brian, always a pleasure. And on a personal note, I love watching golf when golfers are all over par because it makes my game a little bit better.
You know what? I told my wife that last night as I was prepping for the show. She's like, "This is the only week that everybody plays like we play," which is awesome. It gives you some senility. There's no doubt about it. Watching those guys struggle, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of fun to watch. I know they hate it. They'll be whining all week because that's just how U.S. Open week is traditionally when they have the golf course set up hard. So it's going to be neat to see them play. Hey, now that's how we feel when we're out there. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a lot of fun, and we really, really hope Kochrack gets off to a great start. He's the third group on tomorrow morning. He should have a pretty nice start. If he does, this could be a fun weekend.
Could you imagine his first win on the PGA Tour being the U.S. Open from the Mahoning Valley? How awesome would that be?
Yeah, it would be pretty damn special for sure. Because there's not too many guys that. By the way, your first win, it's a major. There's not too many guys that do that. But our fingers are crossed, hoping that Jason, if he doesn't win, hopefully he makes the cut and makes things interesting on Saturday and Sunday. Brian, always a pleasure, brother. Look forward to talking with you next week.
You got it. Have an awesome week, guys.
All right, man. See you. Brian Tolnar from Mill Creek joining us as he always does every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Can you imagine? Like he said, Jason Kochrack on a Sunday afternoon on Long Island, and he is competing for a U.S. Open championship.
And then what if he compete? But what if his first win is a Masters win? Because he's in the Masters.
Yeah, he's in the Masters.
That'd be even like that. U.S. Open's here, Matt. His first win is a green jacket.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. Oh, by the way, his first 2 wins on the PGA Tour.
Oh my gosh! If he did that,
2 majors.
If he won.
I mean, it's one thing, and again, very few people have done it, where your first win on the PGA Tour is, oh, by the way, a major. You imagine? Oh yeah, my second win. Yeah, it was another major. Yeah, I'm now Mr. Major. Thank you very much.
It's hard to win 2 in a calendar year because majors
no doubt.
Are really tough. That's why I didn't pick Colin Morikawa this week, even though I had him circled as one of my, top 5 or whatever. I didn't pick him to win because I said, man, it's going to be really tough to win 2 majors in a year.
Well, a Japanese golfer has never won the U.S. Open. So I don't know if that's going to be a jinx much. I don't know if that's as much a jinx as the Los Angeles Clippers never going to a conference final. Did
they blow that series or what?
Yeah, I hate to piss on a grave of LA Clippers fans, but my God, what a gag job. You had double-digit leads in game 5, 6, and 7. And hold on a second.
That was worse than the Golden State Warriors collapse because the Warriors just got outplayed in the next game.
No, absolutely.
The Clippers literally gave it up. They had 14-point lead in game 5.
Game 5.
They had a 19-point lead in game 6.
And they had a 12-point lead in game 7.
I mean, my word.
Yeah, that just they shot too many threes.
They went 0 for 8 in the fourth. No, Kawhi Leonard didn't score in the fourth quarter, and
Yeah.
neither did Paul George.
Yeah, can we now just stop?
That team was put together for a championship. That was the sole purpose of why they put those guys on the floor.
Yeah.
We can win a championship.
Can we now just stop comparing Kawhi Leonard to LeBron James?
It's done now.
Because that's not happening.
I never liked it when it happened in the first place. I'm not gonna say, oh, he's terrible now, but he's not on the level.
He's not terrible, but he's not on LeBron's level.
He's not on the level.
No, absolutely not. Now, it's not that LeBron hasn't frittered away something in the Eastern Conference semifinals. He did when he was in Cleveland. There's no two ways about it. But this is different, and I'm with you with Golden State. Golden State did not have a double-digit lead in games 5, 6, and 7 against the Cavaliers.
No.
I mean, this is a gag job to end all gag jobs.
And that block to end it, LeBron James's block was better because he chased it down.
Yes.
And it was, but this one, I never thought I'd see anything that even rivaled LeBron James' block. This one, because that was a game-winning block. Like it didn't lead to a game-winning shot. It was literally game on the line.
It was a game-winning block where in some ways that's better.
It was perfect defense because he came and he played off of Smart. He was coming off the edge and he said, you know what? No, we're talking about the other series.
Yeah.
But he said, you know what? I'm going to come off of it. And then he came off right down the baseline and his hand kind of went backwards to fall and then sprung the ball out of it. I mean, it was just... technically it was a great block because he used a left hand and he's right-handed. So you see a lot of right-handed shot blockers go up with their right, and if he does that, there's no way he doesn't foul.
Yeah.
So he did it. I thought it was a tremendous defensive play.
Now,
and his name's Bang. So
there you go. There you go. Now the $1,000,000 question: does Denver have a chance in hell against the Lakers?
Oh God, no.
Yeah,
I mean, Lakers were salivating.
They have to play out of their mind in order to even win 2 games against the Lakers.
And in all respect to Denver, but the Clippers lost that series more than Denver won it. I mean, Denver definitely took advantage of the Clippers not playing well. And props to them for doing that, but the Clippers gagged. I mean,
they shot too many
around
threes.
Right.
I mean, you got away from what you were doing right the first 4 games of the series. I mean, you shot way too many threes games 5, 6, and 7. You weren't playing the same caliber of basketball that got you the 3-1 series lead in the first place. And I'm with you. There's no chance the Denver Nuggets beat the Los Angeles Lakers.
Never say never because sports is sometimes weird things happen in sports, but the odds are definitely not in their favor.
Although I also said that there was no chance anyone would lose or anyone would beat the Las Vegas Knights in the NHL tournament. And here's the Dallas Stars. Not only they destroyed Vegas in a gentleman's sweep, beat them in 5, and they're going to wind up in all likelihood playing Tampa Bay for a championship.
When we had Tom Callahan on back at the beginning of the playoffs, and Calgary won the first game against Dallas, and Mr. Callahan was just like, man, I don't even think Dallas might struggle to get out of the first round.
Yeah.
And they got out of the first round, and now, whoa.
Yeah.
They found an offense is what they did.
Absolutely.
Because they couldn't shoot for anything in the end of the season in that first couple games of Calgary series. Well, they found an offense.
Tampa Bay plays the New York Islanders tomorrow night.
I like that.
And Tampa Bay's up 3-2 in that series.
Good story for the Islanders, but I think
absolutely.
They just kind of ran out of gas a little bit against a good Tampa Bay team.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, the Islanders, they were down 3-1 to the Flyers, and they wound up winning the series, so who knows? Who knows what they'll do?
This is why the NHL has one of the better playoff systems.
I love their playoff system.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I just do. I love their playoff system. I love everything about the NHL playoffs. And you know, hockey is an awful lot like baseball. The pitching staff and the goalie are one and the same. If you have a great goalie, much like if you have a great pitching staff, you have a shot. You have a shot to steal a series.
Is that why the Indians are just clinging to hope, like get in the playoffs, we have a shot.
All they need to do is get in the playoffs, and if they can get in the playoffs, I think they have a shot. But getting into the playoffs, my Lord, someone please get this team off of the road And they still got to play 4 in Detroit.
It started on home, though.
Yeah, I know. It just...
Yikes.
Put them into the pits, get the 4 tires off, get the oil changed, and let them roar the last 12 games. And like I said, if they can go 8-4, 7-5 the final 12 games, then they should be okay. But this 4-game series against Detroit... I got news for everyone. The Tigers are only 4.5 games in back of Cleveland, and they're 4 in the loss column. Detroit has them at home for 4 games. And can you imagine if Cleveland's losing ways continued and Detroit were to sweep Cleveland over at Comerica? Oh, my God. The apple would be really lodged into the throat of the Indians at that point.
That'd be probably, if they get swept by the Tigers and that losing streak goes from 7 to, that would be
12.
12.
Yeah.
Game over.
I
don't see them having a playoff shot after that.
Okay, you look at the top 8 teams, and the Indians right now are the 8th seed. New York just jumped up to the 5, where they got past Toronto. And they now have a half a game lead on Toronto. So New York is up to the 5. Toronto's down to the 7. Cleveland is the 8. Past 542 win percentage, everyone's under 500. Detroit is at 447. Seattle is at 458. Seattle's 4 games in back of Cleveland for that final spot.
That would, of course, change if Detroit swept the Indians.
And Detroit will need to sweep the Indians in order for them to have any realistic chance of taking over that 8 spot. 3 out of 4, you still have a lot of work to do, but in a baseball world as crazy as this is, Detroit's going to need to sweep Cleveland to put the fear of God in the Indians and make the gag job complete.
But if you take 3 or 4 of them, then you're still maintaining that the Indians are scuffling.
Yeah, exactly. And then they still got to take on the White Sox, who are, by the way, the best team in the American League, and you got to play them for 4 games. So 3 out of 4, and hope the White Sox beat up the Indians. You have a pretty nice chance there.
The bad thing for the Tigers is if it's close at the end, the Indians end the season with the Pirates.
Yeah, exactly.
And that'll be most likely 3-game sweep.
Yeah, by the way, the Pirates' win percentage right now is at 298.
Oh, man.
They have lost their last 7 games in a row. 14-33
remember
is their
a couple
record.
weeks ago when we were like, hey, they still got a chance.
Yeah, that was when they weren't on their 7-game losing streak.
That was when they swept Milwaukee. And we were like, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
Oops.
Well, they're going to have the number 1 pick overall, which is good.
If they use it well.
You would hope that they do. Here's the other thing. Are we going to have a full college baseball season? You hope that we do, but there's no guarantees with that.
Here's another thing. When Big Ten is going to play, so now it's like, Pac-12, do you just say call it quits for the whole season, not even try to play in the spring?
Well, I think out west they got some problems because California
the point of playing in the spring?
California, Oregon, and Washington are on fire, literally. Arizona still has a COVID problem. They have some problems out there.
Where was it? What baseball game had to be canceled? Was it Seattle with the bad air quality because of the fires? That's just scary.
Welcome
to 2020. Literally,
we are looking at in our weather. I don't know if anyone saw, which you're not supposed to see the sun, but if you glazed near the sun this morning, it was a weird type of look because unfortunately that smoke from all the fires out west has now made its way to the east, and our air quality here, it's not going to be nearly as bad as the air quality out there, but our air quality is not going to be great here. So folks that have pulmonary conditions or have breathing problems in general, you're probably going to want to stay inside for the next week or 2.
Better get out your Vader mask. And if you want to go outside.
Luke, I am your father.
That's impossible.
Tell Princess Leia I will destroy her. Yeah, James Earl Jones is one of those guys.
Can you imagine?
I want him to read the freaking yellow pages.
He comes in and he's in a Darth Vader suit. And he's a bigger dude, and they go, "We just want you to do the voice."
Can you at least do "This is CNN"?
We just want you to do the voice. Oh.
Yeah.
The awkwardness.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. It's like you look at him.
And then they take off his mask, and he's like the least James Earl Jones sounding guy you could ever imagine. When in the Return of the Jedi, when the mask comes off.
Yeah.
And the face does not match the voice at all. Like, he's not like authoritative. He's just, which is the point of the character, because he's taken away all of his humanity and all of his,
Yeah. His badassery is gone.
That stuff comes from his machine. Not
Sure,
his person.
absolutely.
So, but it was a funny reveal, because it's like, oh.
Should have had a high-pitched person play the role. Hey, how you doing? And I was like, oh, okay. Wait a second. Where did the voice go? Where did the voice go here? You had to put the stuff back on. Hello, how are you doing?
You see Luke just like put the thing back on his mouth. That's better. I can't take you seriously, Dad.
Thank you very much, son.
I can't take you seriously.
Pull this out. Hey, Luke, how you doing today? This is Mickey Mouse.
I think it's officially time for a break.
Oh, God, the show went sideways. It really went sideways there. I don't understand why. All right, John Vargo from the Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle is coming up next. Calgon, take me away. Back in a bit, it is a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Rain will come and go tomorrow. There'll be some dry intervals.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Rude gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy-efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Rude, and so should you.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions, reminding you that it is open enrollment for Medicare.
Now through December 7th, those who qualify can visit our local independent agency by calling us at 330-953-3722 or visiting us at WRSInsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Attention all football fans. If you can't see your team play, come and dine with us and watch it live at Boardman, Canfield, or Cortland. Or staying at home, we'll deliver right to your door. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
2020 will be a season like we've never seen before, but 21 Sports and YSN will be there for every key moment. The plays, the players, and the stories that will headline this season. Delivered by 21 Sports and YSN.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
You may find yourself in some difficulty this winter. Don't get whacked by high heating bills. Call Michael at MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Michael is a trusted friend who will be able to help you with many things, like getting a 95% high-efficiency furnace this winter from Rude. Michael relies on Rude, so should you. Call MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning for a free estimate, 330-259-0486, and take care of your heating and air situation.
Take care of that heating and air situation. Make them an offer again. Reviews. Go Rude. 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline open as we bring in Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle columnist John Vargo, who joins us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline. John, how are you today, sir?
Good. How are you, Ron?
I'm doing wonderful. Now, John is not only a sports writer, he is also a parent of a soccer player. So we'll throw that out there right now. Your boy is the goalie for Cardinal Mooney, and you guys, or Mooney had a soccer game with South Range that ended in a 1-1 tie.
Correct. Yeah, it was. You always have these teams that you always, no matter what the records are, it's going to be a war out there. And with Mooney and South Range, it's one of those games. So it's like it's been that way for the past 4 years when these teams have met. They've either had cards or it's like it gets rough out there, But you try to persevere through it, and both teams, and credit to South Range, they did a hell of a job last night trying to take away everything Mooney had out there. I think they did a wonderful job of doing what they needed to do. So, and Mooney just has to regroup from here. So I mean, Mooney's still undefeated, 2-0-3, but I mean they face a really good Revere team on Saturday. So my son had 12 saves last night, but I'm usually on the sidelines, Ron. I'm usually taking pictures, or I have full disclosure. I'm the one running their Twitter site, so I put updates and on there. And the funny part was when Mooney scored their goal, my wife, my mother-in-law, and my daughter, they wanted fries at halftime, so they had the Hoover fry cart, just right outside the stadium there. So I'm there looking on. It's like the second half's beginning to start there, and Mooney scores their only goal then. And they said, man, maybe I should just stay here for the rest of the game. So me not being in the stadium might have been a good thing. So it's like, but it's always an interesting game between these two teams. So, and it's very nerve-wracking watching your son out there. It's different when you're covering like cross country and other team soccer. You're devoid of any feelings about one way or the other. But when it's your own flesh and blood out there, it's a different feeling, Ron.
12 saves. He was busy. I mean, he was busy during the course of the game. I mean, normally, goalies are making, 5 to 8 saves in the course of a game. 12 saves. He was busy beaver yesterday.
Yes, he was. Yeah, and he obviously would like to get that one back near the end of the first half, but it happened. So it's like, and he had a little punch out near in the last 30 seconds as South Range tried to win it. So and it was a good game, and like I said, I give full credit to South Range, for playing their game and trying to take away everything Mooney had. So they played a hell of a game. So to get that 1-1 tie. So
we talked with Doug Chapin yesterday, and tomorrow is going to be D-Day for the state of Ohio, the coaches that have no interest in having their kids go into the playoffs in high school football. And locally, 2 teams as of now have opted out of the playoffs, Sebring and Matthews. They'll play each other in week number 7. Do you anticipate a high number of teams opting out in the postseason?
I would assume most of the teams that are on the bottom tier of the standings, maybe, and I'm just throwing out a couple names, maybe in East Palestine, Lakeview, Jefferson, would probably maybe just opt out of the playoffs. Yeah, I could be totally wrong about that. Obviously, speculation there. Waterloo. I'm going through the standings. I typed up probably a couple hours earlier from now, so for tomorrow's paper. So, and Lisbon to throw out another one, but I would think those teams probably would opt out and maybe just play a couple more games, which to me, Ron, is just very weird to see, teams still playing when, they've been knocked out of the playoffs or they're not in the playoffs. It's still playing. It just seems like spring sports. It's almost like baseball and softball. It's like, okay, we're still playing for a league title, but, our team's no longer in the postseason. So it has that kind of a feel to it. So
when, Before yesterday, I would have said that not too many teams would have, but now that Matthews and Sebring kind of set the precedence, is it going to be more than you expected coming into this week, where you thought maybe these teams would take the opportunity to play in the playoffs, or did you kind of expect all the teams at the bottom to try to opt out?
I kind of expected the teams at the bottom probably to opt out. So, but like I said, you'll probably find out more either today or tomorrow who's going to make the decision there. But, who knows? You might have an 0-6 team that says, hey, let's roll the dice. It's like, we've played a tough schedule. It's like we know what we've played. We've upscheduled maybe a couple divisions. Let's see what happens there. You might have teams that do that as well, not only just around here, but around the state. And it might be behooving to see him work out that way, because who knows, an 0-6 team in a regular season might end up, playing for a state championship. I mean, stranger things have happened, and, it is 2020, so.
John Vargo, our guest, you'll see him occasionally throwing down a column in the Tribune Chronicle as well as the Vindicator. John also does a great job covering Youngstown State University men's and women's basketball, and obviously we're still a ways away from basketball season, a couple of months or so. They're in the bubble right now, but encouraging news in that college teams are now starting to realize that, we can play some sports here, and we're not getting destroyed by COVID. You'll see a couple of flare-ups every so often. If this trend continues, you would think that the Youngstown State basketball schedule isn't going to be affected by COVID, and that everything would be back to normal, or as close to normal as we can get.
Now, Ron, the last thing I've seen is they wanted to start the season around Thanksgiving, which would probably put a crimp in, some team schedules. I know that's not definite right now, but I mean, it's to have that. I mean, a lot of teams like YSU might lose those money games they had earlier in the season too. So it's like but I know like a VCU is around, I think around early December. Don't quote me on that, but it's around that mark there. And I know the West Virginia game, which is not a money game for them. It's a part of the three game series in consecutive years they've had, and it'll finish up in Morgantown this year. And I know they're trying to get another pay game there, but it's really hard for the YSU men to get that pay game because of we don't know if there's going to be fans allowed, and some of these schools don't want to pay out the money if there's no fans in the stands. So you're caught between a rock and a hard place, especially when you're in the the mid to low major teams, trying to find those paydays to help out your athletic departments.
Well, certainly, and we talked a little bit about this when the season came to an abrupt ending for Youngstown State. I really think the ceiling is very high for not just the men's program, the women's program for this year. I knock on wood and pray that we have a basketball season, because I think that there is potential for two outstanding basketball programs to be playing basketball this winter at Bigley.
Ron, I really hope I'm very busy this winter. I really hope so. I hope to see good basketball. I hope to go on the road a couple games and see, the men play, see the women play, because I think both teams, as you said, do have that potential, especially for the women's side. Having Mary Dunn get that extra year and have her come back for this fifth year, it was huge, because now you have her, Emma Van Zanten, you have Jen Wendler. I mean, you got 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" in a post. I mean, you tell me another Horizon League team that can tout that, in their front line there. And you have other players. When you got this team last year, when they had around 8 to 10 wins, they had a lot of true freshmen that got a lot of experience, Ron, and were able to, showcase their abilities against some of the best in the Horizon League. Now you have them coming back. You have a couple of freshmen added this year. I'm telling you, it's like the women's team has a really good high ceiling there. I would like to see, anywhere between 17 to 20 wins for them would probably be, on par from what they're thinking. So it's like, but like I said, it's like, who knows what the schedule's going to look like? Who knows, where we're going to be here in a couple months.
Well, it's dare to dream. I think both teams could very well win 20 games, and how crazy would it be to have both teams not only be competitive in the Horizon, but both teams win the Horizon tournament and go to the NCAA tournament. I mean, you talk about a town that would lose its mind if the YSU men and women were both in the NCAA basketball tournaments. Wow, that would be unbelievable.
Ron, you couldn't sell as far as, it's like as far as when coaches go out to recruit, they try to sell their program as much as they can, try to put that in the best light. Nothing puts your program in a better light than saying, hey, we've been to the top of the mountain. We've been to the NCAA tournament. We've been there, and the recognition of a first-time team as YSU would get for those couple days before the tournament started. And I just pray, if they do get there, they're not thrown in that first four, at Dayton, because frankly, that just seems like, that seems like a slap in the face for the tournament. I don't like it down there. It just seems like, especially a team like YSU makes it there, you're thrown there for your first game and then you're eliminated and you don't get the real feel of the tournament itself. So it's like, I just hope they get there, they go someplace like Columbus or Buffalo or Syracuse or, Detroit for the first weekend, and they get a chance, because if they go there, they're not going there to show up and say we made it there. They're going to try to make some noise once they get there.
And, we talked earlier in the show about the revenue and the revenue that YSU is losing from no football in the fall. It's a lot. How much do you think that, and then, obviously if basketball doesn't play those big money games, the revenue is going to be even in a deeper spot. So how much do you think that the revenue loss is going to take a toll on YSU athletics going forward?
I think it's going to take a huge toll on YSU athletics going forward, especially if basketball doesn't play, because that's your second revenue sport, next to football. So, and you're going to have football coming in the spring, and who knows where you're going to be in the spring as far as, getting an 8-game schedule for a Missouri Valley Football Conference. So coming in the spring, starting in late February, and just trying to play those games. And, are you going to have a snowstorm? And we know, as living in Ohio, that we can have a freak snowstorm in late March and early April, as well as late February and early March. So, I mean, who knows what that schedule is going to be like, how many fans are going to show up to those games, or is there going to be an interest? And then as far as basketball, I mean, I think they need a basketball season. Teams like, not only Youngstown State, your Mid-American Conference teams, other teams like the Northeastern Conference, with, Robert Morris just left, those kind of teams there, the Mid-Atlantic, the ones with Iona and up there, the Metro Athletic Conference there. Those kind of teams need a basketball season to continue the viability, especially around the Horizon League, where men's basketball is your major sport, not football, because, your Cleveland States, your Wright States, your Detroit Mercies, Oakland, they rely on men's basketball to happen, and for them to not have a basketball season, would be devastating to their athletic departments, because the trickle-down effect would probably affect some of the programs itself, and then I shudder to think, how these student athletes would be affected.
John Vargo from the Tribune Chronicle and the Vindicator joining us, I should say, on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. John, are you going to be anywhere Friday night with high school football?
Unfortunately, I'm not. We are having a changeover from our design system here, so I'm probably relegated to the office probably for the rest of the football season, just to help out that way, because try to make deadlines and everything like that. So I will be in the office taking box scores and putting out pages on Friday night.
Yeah, the game that I would want to see, Warren JFK going to Garrettsville to take on Garrettsville Garfield. To me, 2 3-0 teams going at each other. That's one of the better games this week in high school football in our area.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I went with Kennedy just because I've seen them twice. I know what to expect out of them. But that doesn't mean Garfield's not a good team. Garfield's a very good team, and it's going to be a war out there on Garrettsville. It's like I think the one thing that might give Garrettsville an edge is playing on grass. It's like you might neutralize somebody like a Jesse Likens, but Jesse Likens just has unbelievable track speed. I would have loved to see him run for JFK this past spring, and I'm sure he would have been on the podium in the 100 and 200 at the state tournament, for Division III. In his senior year, he's going to light it up come track and field season. That kid is just unbelievably talented, and the Air Force Academy really has a good one coming out there come next season.
I just hope that we have winter and spring sports without any interruptions, without any baloney, and let's just get back to some set of normalcy. I'm really, really hoping that we don't get a second wave of COVID with flu season coming up.
Yeah, and it's like I just don't even want it, because I got my own sinus problems I got during fall and winter. It's like, and it just wreaks havoc on you. It's like every year. So it's like, and just plus on top of this, it just doesn't make it a good situation. But yeah, I think the only thing of normalcy, Ron, I hate to flip it a little bit, but seeing the Browns lose in week 1, it kind of made me feel like, oh, well, at least something's normal in 2020.
Hey,
so.
one win, 20 losses, and 1 tie since coming back. I told people if you had money and if you wanted to take out a loan to put this bet on Baltimore, do it, because you'll get your money back and then some.
Yeah, it's like it just seems like this team, Ron, has been set up for failure since they came back in '99. When you don't secure your offensive line first and foremost, and you want to go after a quarterback who Tim Couch would have been a great quarterback, and I think would have probably had a 10, 11, 12-year career in the NFL. It's like as far as viability, is even a starter for the Browns, but they just decimated him by having a porous offensive line, which I think, the only thing they've ever done is getting Joe Thomas there. I mean, they've had pieces and parts, but they've never been able to hang on to like an Alex Mack or anybody like that. And it's just frustrating, watching them. Maybe that's why I've gravitated towards fantasy football ever since the Browns left in '95. And it's like, and that's the only thing, Ron, that gets me through NFL Sundays, because I can't stomach to sit and watch a Browns game. I'd rather be out doing yard work, playing with one of my kids, going out someplace else, because I just can't stand and watch I can't justify wasting 3 hours of my life watching them.
Okay, I got to ask, who's on your fantasy football team this year?
Well, I do have Drew Brees on there.
There you go.
I have Drew Brees, Dalvin Cook, Le'Veon Bell. I have him, Odell Beckham Jr., which I'm questioning my sanity on that one. But he was great for me last year, and frankly, I didn't want to go against that. Devontae Adams, who's just been amazing last week. I had to go with Gronk just because I wanted to say I had Gronk on my team. So it's like T.Y. Hilton, and I got the Patriots defense and Justin Tucker as my kicker, because Tucker's the best kicker in the game. I was like, you can't go wrong with him. So
your defense and your kicker, I like it. And Breeze, I like it. OBJ, I have this strange feeling that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to get traded in the next week or two. I have that strange feeling that's going to happen.
And frankly, I wouldn't be opposed to that, especially if he gets out of Cleveland. Maybe he'll resurrect his career for the rest of the year, and maybe put up the points that he, if he finds the right system and gets in the right place, because I'm still questioning if Baker Mayfield's really the one. But it's like, gosh sakes, Ron, do we want to go through another quarterback change? I mean, how many laundry lists of changes do you have in this system? It's like, I don't know even if that's the answer, getting another quarterback. I mean, do you want to throw another one to the Wolves? It's like, because, can you imagine if Joe Burrow would have been the quarterback here? Would he have been set up for success like he is in, Cincinnati?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, because it just seems like it's a failure. Everybody says, okay, you got to do this, you got to do that. I think Marv Levy said it best. When you start listening to the fans, you're going to be sitting with the fans. And I think for the Browns organization, they've been doing that for the last 20 years, is catering to a fan base, and God love them. I think the Browns are one of the best fan bases, in the country. But, the Browns got to do what they got to do, and sometimes I think they outthink themselves in the room, too. It's like, and just you're not the smart, just make the simple decision, like running the ball, why isn't Nick Chubb getting the ball? It's like, why isn't Kareem Hunt getting, carries? Why aren't you just going to a basic offense and just running up the gut on people? It's like, I know it's a pass-first offense, Ron, but, it's like, for around the league, but the bread and butter of this team is the running game. Once you get the running game going, you're going to have, a passing game. You're going to open up your passing game. Odell is going to get open. You're going to have other guys there. You can throw Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's going to get open. You're going to have other guys there. It's like, get the running game going. I don't know why the Browns are scared of getting a running game going. It just baffles my mind. So
yeah, I just think that at some point the Browns coaching staff is going to realize we're a lot better running the football than we are throwing the football at this juncture. And if we want to maximize Baker's ability, we should probably establish the run, and then the play action pass is going to be so much better and give Baker some more time to throw the ball down the field. And personally, I know a lot of people are trying to turn Baker Mayfield into a run to the floating pocket and let him roll to the right, roll to the left. Just let Baker be Baker, and work on his strengths, which is quick release and whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, they have to have their running attack working in order for Baker to have any shot at being a decent quarterback. So it's established the run, and I think they can beat the Bengals convincingly by running the football. I didn't see a Cincinnati team that stopped the run very effectively against an average running back for the Chargers. They don't have anybody named Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt for that matter. So I think that Cleveland should be able to roll up some yardage on the ground, and they should be able to get a victory on Thursday night. But this is the Browns, and let's be honest. Siebert may kick the game-winning field goal, and
I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought that. It's like once I saw him trade the Bengals, I said, that's going to come back and bite them in the rear end.
Yeah. And when he was picked up by the Bengals yesterday, I was like, oh yeah, you could just see this tie ball game, or the Bengals down to 46-yard field goal right through the uprights, and he comes into Cleveland and gets the last laugh. I could see that happening a mile away.
Walks in the sunset.
He walks off the field with his Skyline chili saying, "Suck it, Cleveland."
Yeah.
John, always a pleasure, brother.
No problem, guys. Hey, have a great day.
All right, man. You too. John Vargo from the Tribune Chronicle and the Vindicator. Yeah, I could just see, he lines up for the game-winning field goal, right down the middle,
towing it up, and then
right down the middle, game over. And he's like,
salt. Pour the salt on.
Yeah, put the salt on the wounds. Horrible.
That'd be such a Cleveland thing to happen.
Absolutely horrible.
Thing to happen.
Honestly, I think the Browns have the capabilities of winning this ball game and winning it convincingly because they have a really good running attack. So we'll see what happens.
They should win. The problem is what it always is in Cleveland. They have a losing culture, and if one thing goes wrong, it usually turns into 3 or 4 things going wrong. And unfortunately for the Browns, it's really hard to break a losing culture, and that's why I think they're never going to be a team that I can confidently say will win a game. Like that, I'm gonna come in. They should beat Cincinnati, but I can't confidently say, yeah, the Browns will beat the Bengals, no doubt. Just because they have that culture that lets them lose games that they should win.
I think Stefanski is going to change that at some point in time. It just, it's going to take time, and that's where the fan base and more importantly, Jimmy John is going to have to just settle down and not pull the trigger to get rid of his coach like he normally does. Emmanuel, you're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's up, brother?
Well, first of all, that was a great interview. And how you guys doing?
Oh, good. Doing good.
Well, I like to call and pick your brain about a couple of things. I don't know, you haven't talked too much about the NBA, but I want to ask you about a couple of players. I want your opinion on them right now, and what do you think about going forward? What about the Greek Freak? Does he stay in Milwaukee? Is he going to get help? Is he overrated? Or what's your feeling on him?
I think he's a tad bit overrated.
Because he doesn't have a jump shot.
But yeah, exactly. His jump shot is next to nothing. And I think that he was exposed in the playoffs because, in the playoffs when you see the same team in a best-of-7 series, you're pretty much going to be able to shut down everyone's strengths and then make sure that you have this person beat you by beating you with their weakness. And the Greek Freak does not have a consistent outside jumper. He has a great inside game. His outside game is below average. So he's a tad overrated in that regard. I do think Milwaukee is going to get him a little bit more help. Middleton's a nice player, but he's not a 2. He's not one of those guys that that's like a Scottie Pippen or Kyrie Irving or someone of that nature. I think that he's a nice part, but Milwaukee's got to get they got to get a nice number two, a Robin to the Greek Freak's Batman, and is there a chance they trade him? Yeah, there's a chance they trade him, but I think it's a small chance.
He can leave for the simple reason is this, Ronnie. They don't have the talent on the roster to trade to get anybody back because they're trying to get Bradley Beal, but they don't have anybody to give up. And they're trying to do a three-way trade. But if he wants to win a championship, I don't think he can win it in Milwaukee. What do you think?
Well, again, they would have to get someone, whether it be free agency, whether it be a trade. They would have to get someone a little bit better than Middleton while keeping Middleton. I like the Lopez kid, and he, again, third or fourth option. I like the kid's game, especially from the outside, but he's getting long in the tooth. So, obviously Milwaukee has to get a second banana for Antetokounmpo, but here's the thing. I mean, if they were to trade him away and start over again or something of that nature, I don't think Golden State would be able to keep him. But, having the second pick overall in the NBA draft, I mean, it would cost a hell of a lot more than just the second pick overall. But, would Milwaukee do it if you trade, say, the second pick overall and Klay Thompson or someone of that caliber, or maybe two or three kids? I don't know.
And I'm looking, I'm just thoroughly, shocked. I look what Toronto did, and then I watched what happened with the Clippers. Was it Toronto was a better team, and Leonard was playing on a better team, and he's not as good as we thought he was? I mean, my God.
Well, I mean, the Clippers have that aura where they've never gone to the conference finals before. And I don't know what the hell happened in games 5, 6, and 7, but this was not the team that jumped out to a 3-1 series lead. I mean, this was a team that was doing a whole lot more in the first 4 games. They weren't shooting threes like they were in games 5, 6, and 7. I mean, they shot way too many threes. They gave up 3 double-digit leads in game 5, 6, and 7. It was just completely un-Clipper-like, un-Doc Rivers-like to coach a team like that.
Wait a minute. You can't say that because Doc Rivers has lost a 3-1 lead 3 times. That record will never be broken.
No, I get that. But, I mean, to lose a 3-1 series lead is one thing. To lose a 3-1 series lead where you had a double-digit lead in each of the 3 losses, man, that's unforgivable. That really is.
Well, do you stand pat, or do you break the band up, or because the Lakers, they aren't going to do anything but get better.
Well, yeah, the Lakers are. I mean, they're going to be a better team. I mean, obviously, the Clippers, if they could get another piece, that would be great. Then again, it wouldn't surprise me if they broke the band up, based on the fact that they were supposed to go bare minimum the Western Conference Finals. I mean, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, a really, really nice bench. I thought the sky was the limit for the Clippers, and here they can't even get out of the semifinals again. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think that's an interesting off season.
Do you bring Rivers back?
I would hope so. I would hope so. But I thought when I saw Doc Rivers say, I'm not going to say the rah-rah speech in game number 7. These guys, they should be up for the game. I kind of looked at that and said, I'm not big with that. I would have liked to have seen them have a little bit more passion before Game 7.
Be more hungry. Want to go out there and get it. You got to be hungry. You know.
Agreed.
And talking about high school football, I've been looking at the playoffs, the way they're doing it, and I think the Ohio high school athletic people looked over there to Pennsylvania, Because you watch the Pennsylvania high schools, they'll be in the playoffs and teams be playing regular games. I never could figure that one out. Me and you have talked about that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a completely different format. And one of the things that I think people need to understand, the region that teams are in is not necessarily going to be the same region when the playoffs start. Keep in mind, there's going to be a number of teams that are going to opt out of the playoffs. So it's going to be the OHSAA's decision in the next couple of weeks when they figure out, starting Friday, how many teams are going to be in the postseason. Then they're going to figure out, okay, how many Division 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth, all the way down to Division 7. And then you take that base number, say it's 110. Well, now you got to divide that 110 into 4 regions. And that's where things are going to get pretty interesting, because there's no guarantees that Division 2, Region 5, we'll use that division and region. Harding, Fitch, and Boardman are in that region. There are no guarantees that that region is going to be the same as it is right now. For all we know, maybe 9 or 10 of those teams bolt. And let's say 35 or 40 teams in Division 2 decide to bolt because they have losing records and they don't want to get destroyed in week 1 of the postseason. So now you got to redistrict and re-regionalize all of the teams. So you might see completely different teams in your region for this playoff.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think if you go to the playoffs and you lose, I think you're still allowed to play regular season games after that.
Well, you're going to be able to.
Then why wouldn't you go to the playoffs, get beat, then play regular season the next 3 games?
Well, there's teams that probably don't want to get beat 70-0. So, I mean, if you're 0-3 and you haven't done very well in the regular season, you probably don't want to be in the playoffs up against a team that's just going to destroy you. Now, me personally, I would say, hey, let's go to the playoffs. It's going to give you guys a taste of what the playoffs are all about. And once the team is eliminated, you can still play some football. And by the way, I wouldn't play very many games after the playoffs. But
no, but Ron, if I'm not mistaken, at least the first 4 teams, maybe the first 8 teams are going to get buys.
Well,
so
it depends. It depends. Yeah. It depends on how many teams are in your region. If there's 16 teams in a region, then there's not going to be any buys. 1 would play 16, 2 would play 15, 3 would play 14, and so on and so on. Then you'd get to the 8, the 4, the 2, and you crown a champion in week 5 of the 7-week tournament.
Yeah. Okay, the last thing, I heard a rumor about you, man. I heard a rumor, and I want to find out. I heard a rumor that you think that Austintown Fitch is going to win next 3 games. And I'm going to tell you this, Ron. I'll make a bet with you.
I never said that. I never said that. I don't know. I don't know where the hell you heard that. I don't know where the hell you heard that, but I never said it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, whoever told you that is a friggin' moron. I never said that.
No, I thought you were agreeing with the rankings that Austintown has as far as the power rankings, right? And I just don't see it. If you look at that schedule, I just don't see them within next.
Hold on a second. What power rankings?
Oh, well, locally, what do they rank locally?
Who knows? I mean, I don't even.
And 13th in the state.
If it doesn't have WFMJ or YSN attached to it, it's an irrelevant. It's an irrelevant power poll.
But they are 13th in the state, right?
Yes, in Division 2.
Well,
yes.
Well, see, because I remember there's times we wouldn't play them in week 4 where they were in the top 5. They always come out strong, and then we always be 1 and 2. But they really have a really tough schedule coming up, and that Benedict team came. I'm telling you, they got Hogs up front, and they run a scheme like the Kansas City Doggone Chiefs. That's an unbelievable. And I think Benedict team is going to beat Massillon this weekend.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And by the way, I'm saying right now, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Harding beat Fitch, because that Harding team. It's not a normal 1 and 2 team. You guys have played Benedictine. You've played Massillon. This is not a normal 1 and 2 team. So if you were 1-2 and you lost to two teams nowhere near the talent level as Benedictine and Massillon, then I would say, all right, Fitch is going to destroy you. You'll go to 1-3. This is not the case. That Fitch-Harding game is going to be very, very close, and it wouldn't surprise me if Harding won because your schedule, you're 1-2 because of a brutal schedule. It's not because the Warren Harding Raiders are a typical 1-2 team. Warren Harding's 1-2 because of a very brutal schedule. So it wouldn't surprise me if you guys knocked off Fitch.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now. I'll say this and I'll get off the phone. I'm gonna tell you right now. It looks like, and I'm hoping that the first round in the Major League Baseball will be the Cleveland Indians against the New York Yankees.
It's not going to be that way. It won't be that way.
Five plays 4, right?
No, it's 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. So you would be playing the Minnesota Twins right now, which, hey, congratulations.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
Why? Why? You destroy Minnesota every year.
But no, they look good. They tough against us in the playoffs. I don't really.
You own them in the postseason, Emmanuel. Minnesota's never beaten New York.
I'm looking at them this year, right? And you said it 3 years ago, right? You said that they were going to be good 2 years ago, but they were good the year you said they're going to be. A year before you said that.
Yeah.
That's a good program and that's a good team. And you said that they're going to be good for the next 2 years.
Yeah, but they're not good in the playoffs. They're not good in the playoffs. I mean, it's and New York owns them. I mean, if the Twins play the Yankees in the postseason, Minnesota will be in a fetal position, sucking their thumb, and that series will be over before the national anthem even starts.
I'm gonna tell you this. I'm not gonna be like the Clippers, right? I'm not gonna take nothing for granted. You guys have a good day, okay?
All right, brother. Appreciate it. I saw what he did there.
Emmanuel always leaves with a great punch. The last time we had him on, it was, oh my God!
I can appreciate that.
That was great. And then that one with the Clippers jab. He's a good guest. I like having Emmanuel on.
Again,
oh my God!
There's no way that Minnesota would beat the Yankees. Sorry. If this were to go right now, Chicago's playing Cleveland.
I'm not going to say no way. I mean, I understand the dominance the Yankees have had against Minnesota in the postseason, but who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, that's nice to say, but history doesn't mean anything about what's happening right now. I think if you put those two teams on the field, the Minnesota Twins are a better team right now. Period.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think they willed under the pressure. They just they see the Yankee pinstripe and that's it.
That being unsaid, just the teams. Minnesota has a better roster than New York right now. Period. Right?
I think that they have better pitching. I don't think they have better offense.
But
I mean, it's about even offensively.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think they have better pitching. And
if it's even offensively and then Minnesota has better pitching,
then
Minnesota has the better team.
But they'll never beat New York because they see that pinstripe and they're mesmerized into mediocrity.
They don't have to go into the Yankee Stadium in a hostile environment.
I get that, but it's just going up against New York. They cannot beat New York for whatever reason. They just can't do it. So. That's their kryptonite. Champ, you're on MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's up, Champ?
Thanks for taking my call. I can't let Emmanuel get ahead of me today because he made some great points.
Yeah.
Hey, back to this the Greek Freak and what Milwaukee does. Actually, the team that has more to offer in a trade is Golden State, and this is what they have. They have the number 2 pick this year. They also have a top pick next year, which is Minnesota's pick. It's only top 3 protected. So if it's past 3, if it's 4, 5, 6, they have that pick. They also have a player who they would need to throw in the deal because of the salary, and that's Andrew Wiggins. And they also have a guy who was just named to the first-team All-Rookie team, Eric Paschall. And they also have a $17.2 million trade exemption that they got for trading with Iguodala. That's a lot of stuff there. If Milwaukee can't find a better deal, but I'm not sure if the Warriors want to make that deal.
Well, look, I mean, I think that he's a little overrated because his outside shot is below average.
Right. I agree. And plus, he's not a guy that is like a point guard, because sometimes if he can handle the ball, he's not a point forward or whatever. And you're right, he's not a consistent shooter. He's a great player, but I think that he needs, as you say, a Robin, or maybe another Batman. Maybe he could be Robin. And unfortunately, they don't have that currently on the roster, and those are hard players to find. And there's no way till the earth freezes over, they're going to trade Klay Thompson put Klay Thompson in that deal, because Thompson and Curry are going to be lifetime warriors. There's no way they're going to trade either one of those guys.
Well, I wouldn't trade Klay Thompson, and I have said this. No. I have said this from the get-go. Klay Thompson is the best player on that Golden State team. He is the best player on that team. He gives it offensively as well as defensively, and with all due respect to Durant, who was there, with all due respect to Draymond, with all due respect to Steph Curry, Klay Thompson is the heart and soul of that team.
No, see, that's where you're wrong. The heart and soul of that team is Steph Curry. The best basketball player on that team is Klay Thompson. It's the other way. I mean, that team goes with Steph Curry because he's the emotional leader. He's the heart and soul of the team. Klay Thompson's probably the better basketball player, but that team goes as Steph Curry goes.
But let me make this point about why they're a perfect fit. I never separate the two. First of all, we know that Klay Thompson is a tremendous shooter and a tremendous defensive player. His weak spot in being a shooting guard, he doesn't handle the ball well. He's not a point guard. That's Curry's strength. Curry's weakness is his defense, and that's why Klay Thompson matches up. That's why they're such a perfect tandem, because their one weakness is the other guy's strength, but they're both tremendous shooters. They're both tremendous free throw shooters, and they're both gamers. And that's why I think I would never separate the two. They're perfect for each other. But keep in mind, as the point guard, Steph Curry is so underrated as a point guard. I mean, they never mention how I think arguably he's probably, besides Kyrie Irving, I think he's the second best point guard in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paul is up there, but I think that Curry is an elite point guard. I don't think there's any question about that. I think it's way too early to talk him among the pantheon of the greats, because he's not anywhere resembling Isaiah Thomas yet, and Isaiah Thomas is not even top 4 in terms of all time, because Oscar Robertson, in my book, is number 1. Magic Johnson and John Stockton are 2A and 2B, and you go old school with Bob Cousy from Boston. Who could play in today's game without any problems. So I mean, there's your 4, and then you got Isaiah slightly behind Cousy, and then you have Curry inching his way toward Isaiah Thomas, although he's not there yet.
And I totally agree. However, I'm going to put these two together again. In my humble opinion, I think the greatest two in my lifetime, the greatest two guard combinations are Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars, and Klay Thompson and Steph Curry.
Earl the Pearl Monroe and Clyde Frazier would like a word with you.
Well, they're number 3 in my list.
Okay,
but
all right.
But I do respect those two. But I think that right now, the way and the mix of Dumars and Thomas is very similar to what Thompson and Curry is, because one was a great defensive player, one was a great shooter and a great point guard. But I think that those 3 right there are my top 3, and I'll put them right now as Thomas, Dumars, Thompson, Curry, and then I'll put the Knicks guys. But I think that when it's all said and done, Thompson and Curry could be number 1 when it's all said and done.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that, especially the way Klay Thompson plays. I just love his game. I think he's so incredibly underrated in a cavalcade of stars during their 4-year run. I've always thought Klay Thompson was the best basketball player on the court, and everyone thought I was crazy saying, "Oh, Durant's better." No, he's not. Durant doesn't play defense anywhere close to what Klay Thompson brings. So it's just I think that I have all kinds of respect for Klay Thompson.
Yeah, and I like about both of them too. They don't need to be the stars. I mean, Curry has brought in a lot of players that he doesn't care if he's not the star. And Thompson just plays and plays, never complains. And when Durant came, he had less shots, but he was even more effective. And that's why I like the two, because they're perfect for that system, and they're not guys that have to have the limelight shine them all the time. They just want to win, and that's a big part when you put a bunch of stars together, because as you know, a lot of times it doesn't work. You got to have a certain personality, and both of those guys share the team aspect, and they just want to win.
Yeah, agreed wholeheartedly.
Yeah, but anyways, it was interesting because you were talking earlier about our local golfer winning. His first tournament win would be a major win in golf. And I was kind of researching that. And, there's only like about the guys I saw that have actually their only win ever is a major. Sean McKeels, who won the 2003 PGA. Michael Campbell won the 05 U.S. Open. Remember, he's still golfing. Louis Oosthuizen won the 2010. Those are the only wins they've had. Charles Schwartzel won the Masters in 2011, the only win he's ever had in the PGA Tour. Paul Lawrie, Orville Moody. Now, Martin Keimer, his first PGA win was the PGA Championship 2010, but he did pick up a U.S. Open. But there's 7 golfers. Their only win ever was a major, and that's pretty amazing when you have one win. And Angel Cabrera, he has 3 PGA wins. 2 of them are majors, the 07 Open and the 09 Masters. So it's very rare. But you know what? I don't want to limit our local golfer just to win one major. I'd like to see him win more than one and get off this list, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, I think that if he gets off to a great start tomorrow, and he's the third group, he's going to be starting early tomorrow morning, and he's the third group. And Brian Tolnar made the comments, he should be able to get off to a good start because the spike marks aren't going to be there. It's going to be a clean course. So hopefully Kochrack, knock on wood, has a very nice start to the U.S. Open. If he does, this could be interesting this weekend.
Yeah, with the Masters being played in November, I'm going to get up on a Saturday morning, I'm going to watch game day, college football, and then I'm going to see the Masters. I'm going to think, what year is this? I might have to go back to bed again, because that's going to be really bizarre.
Well, the Masters with no azaleas is not a Masters.
No. So, and the only reason the Masters is so honored and revered and talked about is because it's the first major of the year, and because all it has to do with all the flowers and everything. But you put it at the end in November, it's just like the Greenbrier Open. It's just like another tournament to me.
Yeah, I hear you. Champ, be safe.
Okay, Ron, take care.
All right, 330-886-0813. Take a time out and wrap this bad boy up. It is a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Rain will come and go tomorrow. There'll be some dry intervals.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Ruud gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Ruud, and so should you.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions, reminding you that it is open enrollment for Medicare.
Now through December 7th, those who qualify can visit our local independent agency by calling us at 330-953-3722 or visiting us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Attention all football fans. If you can't see your team play, come and dine with us and watch it live at Boardman, Canfield, or Cortland. Or staying at home, we'll deliver right to your door. That's Kochrack Pizza. We serve it hot.
2020 will be a season like we've never seen before, but 21 Sports and YSN will be there for every key moment. The plays, the players, and the stories that will headline this season. Delivered by 21 Sports and YSN.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
You may find yourself in some difficulty this winter. Don't get whacked by high heating bills. Call Michael at MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Michael is a trusted friend who will be able to help you with many things, like getting a 95% high-efficiency furnace this winter from Ruud. Michael relies on Ruud, so should you. Call MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning for a free estimate, 330-259-0486, and take care of your heating and air situation.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
Armstrong Local Programming has always delivered an exclusive and unique perspective on the very best events your region offers. High school sports, community events, parades, all your favorite shows from Armstrong are now calling the Neighborhood Channel their home.
Watch Out and About, Locally Speaking, and many other great local shows right here on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel.
Find out everything that the Neighborhood Channel has to offer at ArmstrongNeighborhood.com. Spirit, town pride, local communities. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Point. We're a couple minutes away from getting out of here. Let us remind everyone, tomorrow the deadline to opt in or out of the playoffs for the OHSAA football playoffs, that is tomorrow. Districts/regions are going to be redrawn on September the 18th. Later on, about the 29th and the 30th, according to Dana Balish, coaches are going to be voting for seeding, and then on October the 1st, the brackets will be announced. So, week 4 of the high school football season is this weekend, but a lot more things involving the postseason coming up this week as well. Should be an entertaining couple of days.
Yeah. It definitely should be, and I'm interested to see how many teams decide to opt out, because I think Vargo brought in a good point. There are some teams that are, near the bottom of the league, but their league is really tough, and they play a tough schedule, and they might be able to squeak out a playoff win because of that. I'm looking at a team like maybe Jefferson, who's competed in the NE8. They were a touchdown away from beating Hubbard. I mean, they had Hubbard in trouble. They blocked a punt, and Jefferson had the ball at the 5-yard line with 3 plays to try to punch it in the end zone, just couldn't do it. And Hubbard's undefeated. So who's to say that Jefferson can't go compete with a 5 or 6 seed in the playoffs? Because I think they can. When you're playing in a league like the NE8 or like some other ones in the state, and you're taking your lumps, but you're playing good teams week in and week out, who's to say you can't go compete in the playoffs with someone outside of your conference?
Yeah, we'll find out. That'll do it for Running Point. Power Hour is coming up next. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. We'll talk